3, 2, 1. Whoops. And now we're live.
We're live. Okay. I just need to make sure it's working on my.
Can you edit this part out later?
No. But you can go ahead and introduce us because I have to do
Okay.
this.
Well, hello. Welcome to the Mean Stream with Alex and Lisa, where we talk about problematic things and are a little bit mean.
Hello, Celtic.
Hey, first one
Um,
here.
so what's going on today? We're doing our mean stream once again, and we're going to be mean again. Today we need to discuss all things Harry Potter, Hogwarts house. It's so bad. I literally didn't even know what they were called. I was like, what is it called?
He was like Harry Potter
Um,
houses.
I was like, is it the house thing? I don't know. Harry Potter astrology? No, I'm just kidding. But
That's what it is, though. For real.
no, but the Hogwarts houses make sense. But we are going to be doing our thing. We like to talk about our stuff on here, and I thought it would be fun if we did some sorting into different houses of different famous people or YouTubers or whatever, because
Yes.
Lisa is really good at
I'm a
sorting
human
people.
sorting hat.
She's a human sorting hat. She read the books and everything. I'm debating on listening to the books while I
You
work
should.
and stuff. So I'm
You should.
like this close, but I'm not. I haven't read them, but I did see the movies. But
Mm.
I'm very rusty. So Lisa's gonna educate me.
And the movies don't do the books justice, in my opinion. I mean, they're pretty good as far as like adaptions go, but they're not like that great at capturing the spirit of what I would say that what makes the book special.
Right, for sure.
Mhm.
So I think we can go ahead. We can introduce our houses. So mine
Mhm.
is obvious. I don't know how somebody on my channel thought I was a Ravenclaw. And that
Yeah,
was offensive.
I saw that when it happened. I was like, "Are you kidding?"
I know.
Okay, bitch, you better be joking.
No, I mean, I get it. Like, you wear the glasses, I got that low key. I look like a leftist. I get it. I get it.
Whatever. Harry Potter wore glasses and he was dumb as rocks. He
Was he
was.
really? He was that bad?
He was okay. He was what I would call natural talent, and he coasted on that the entire time.
Did you consider, okay, just to get us a little warmed up, do you consider Harry Potter like a Mary Sue or like a male Mary Sue?
Um, I don't think so. People have said that before,
Okay.
and I really don't agree with that assessment because he has obvious problems
Yeah.
that he has to contend with and
Oh
like
my gosh.
apologize for. Yeah.
He's got champagne problems, and I'm just kidding. Okay, so let's see. I need Lisa to break down the houses because seriously, but before we do that, do you have anything to plug, ma'am?
Yes. So I have a channel and it's called Lisa King. That's me. And where I talk about weight loss and um am starting reactions to fat acceptance YouTubers and such.
Loved
And you
it.
can follow my weight loss journey on there. I do vlogs. There's a lot of girly things like makeup and clothing hauls. So please follow me. Alex will link my YouTube channel in the description box down below when
Yes,
this thing is over,
for
and
the
he will also
replay.
post it in the chat. Actually, I will post it in the chat
Yes.
in 1 second.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Yeah, I think so Lisa is
Mhm.
you came out with your house, right? She did a
Yes.
whole
Okay.
makeup series on her channel where she went through all the different houses and she kind of broke it down a bit. So she kind of got me back into it. And then I thought we should definitely do this stream because it's fun.
Yeah,
And I do think
definitely.
J.K. Rowling was really picking up on something when she
Mhm.
wrote this. And I like it from a sort of, it's like it's almost like an industry or organization sorting, like it's all about like, it's kind of, in my opinion, it's sort of how you work. There can be some like personality traits, obviously, but it's more about values than like
Yeah,
personality, in my opinion. That's how I
definitely.
interpret it.
It's
Yeah.
definitely what you value because you can be a completely I don't wanna say the R word, but a stupid person and end up in Ravenclaw as evidenced by Gilderoy Lockhart. So that it doesn't always mean that you have every single personality trait that these houses value. It's, but it's definitely what you value and what you aspire to is typically what house that you end up in.
Okay,
And
yeah,
and
and that
it
makes sense, and
mhm,
I've talked on this channel before because I was looking into stuff prior to the stream, and I am about hello, Kira. I am as Slytherin as they come. You know,
mhm,
I always talk about how in sixth grade, which is when you would be sorted, right? In
mhm,
sixth grade, I went to a private Christian school. I call it Evangelicon Academy. And it was very small, but our class was big. We were sixth grade, so we had 6A and 6B, and 6A was like the more misbehaved class because 6B was under like a newer teacher that
mhm.
wasn't as experienced. So my sixth grade ass at lunch was like, we're 6B, we're better than 6A, and we shouldn't be associating with them, period. And people actually listened to me. But,
Yeah,
it was like very much, even from a young age, I was exclusive, which I think that is definitely a Slytherin value, is it not?
yeah. It is definitely, and we can talk about that more when we break down each individual
Mhm.
house. But yeah, just to recap, Alex is a Slytherin, and I am a Gryffindor. I got my Gryffindor sweatshirt on. Yeah, it's and just like everybody else, we have a majority of the traits and values
Yeah.
of each of these houses, but we don't have every single one of them. And we're just going to break down each house and then go into a bunch of different
Mhm.
YouTubers and celebrities that we think we can sort
Yes.
accurately.
Do you think the Sorting Hat would have sorted you in Gryffindor in 6th grade?
I think I think it would because the sorting hat definitely takes into account what you want. So, for example, if
Mhm.
you look at Harry, there's a whole thing of the Slytherin wants to put him in Slytherin, and Harry keeps saying, "Not Slytherin." So he puts him into the
Mm.
closest house to Slytherin, which is Gryffindor.
So would you have been a not Slytherin type?
I think I would have been. It's very hard to tell. I think the house would have tried to put me in either Ravenclaw or Hufflepuff. I feel like probably
Mm.
It would have probably tried to put me in Ravenclaw just because I was so, like, um, very, like, intelligence not saying intelligence oriented, but, like, I wanted to learn and I wanted to study, and, I was very obsessed with being, um, just the best at something, and so I feel like it would have put me there, but I was also I think in my mind, I was like, I I thought Gryffindor was the best, and so I would want to be Gryffindor. I know.
I mean, I think you probably would have been sorted because I I'm gonna spill slight tea, but I've
Mhm.
watched a project of Lisa's from high school. And Lisa, you were still very extroverted
I
and
was.
extra and bombastic in those things from a young age. So I think you would have
Yeah.
been sorted. I pegged you
Yeah,
as
it's
one right
possible.
away.
I think so. I think so. I think you're right, and if I'm thinking of more of an internal perspective
Yeah.
there, but I think externally, people would not have been surprised if I was in Gryffindor back then.
Mhm.
They're always surprised to hear it today because of,
Oh,
like
wow.
because I guess it's just, like, the older I get, the more my, like, Capricorn-ness shows through.
Well, people, they act like there's no way in hell I could be a Slytherin, and it's like, how could you not see it?
How could you be anything
How?
else?
Like, because they're like, "Slytherin's evil, nah, nah, nah," and it's like, "Well, call me evil then." I'm just kidding, but,
Well,
anyway,
you're mean. That's what it is, and
it's
so
the
am
mean
I.
stream, but
Yeah.
so is Gryffindor, but they're mean in a
Mhm.
different way.
Yeah,
We're
I wanna point
we're all
out something that
together.
Celtic said here in the comments where he said,
Mhm.
"Yeah, because when Snape was giving him those personal lessons, Harry had a hard time replicating what Snape wanted him to do." And that's in reference to me calling Harry Potter dumb as rocks, and he is. And it reminds me of that one short I showed you where Harry was like, he can't come up with good lies, so all his lies are, like, ridiculous. It's because he's
Oh
not
my
that
gosh.
smart. He's not smart.
Dang, I'm gonna have to get the tea. I'm gonna probably have to listen to him because that's
Yeah.
funny. I do that wasn't that in The Half-Blood Prince? Was that in that one? Where he
Yeah.
did the private lessons? Okay, I remember the movie.
No, the private lessons were in the 5th movie, but
Oh.
the 6th movie, he found a textbook And the textbook had a bunch
Yes.
of like random spells in it. And one was dangerous, and he accidentally hurt Draco Malfoy. And Snape was like, "Bring me your textbook." And so Harry brings it to him, and he brings Ron's textbook, where Ron's like joke pen had written Runel a Waslib in it, and then Snape's like, "This is your textbook," and he's like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Then why does it say Runel Waslib in it?" And Harry's like, "Well, that's my nickname."
Oh, that is bad. Yikes.
Snape's just like, you know,
Gosh.
yeah,
Okay. So yeah, let's do the introduction
yes.
here. Goodness.
As you mean the breakdown of the Hogwarts houses?
Yes, the introduction to the houses because
Mhm.
I don't get them. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But just act as if I don't understand it at all, and I'll ask some questions along the way.
Okay,
But
no
we're
problem.
gonna break down Hufflepuff first because they're I don't know, they are kind of underrated a bit in the books, really.
Yes. So Hufflepuff is one of the first four houses, for there are four houses, and their colors are yellow and black. And when the Sorting Hat sings about them in the first book, he says, "You might belong in Hufflepuff, where they are just and loyal. Those patient Hufflepuffs are true and unafraid to toil." So
Hmm.
that means that, like, talk about their positive traits, they're very, like, for justice, they're fair, they're loyal, they're hardworking, patient, kind, genuine, practical, determined, and honest. So they're a pretty good house to be in. So if you we'll talk about their positive traits as represented in the books. Think about the Battle of Hogwarts. So in the Battle of Hogwarts, all the houses got to choose whether they were going to stay to fight, or they were going to go down the dungeons, be locked in the dungeons to be kept safe and out of harm's way.
Was that in
And
the last book or
that was in
like
the last book, yeah, like right in the
okay.
last few chapters, right before the battle. And so, all the Slytherins don't choose to fight. Half the Ravenclaws don't choose to fight, but every single Gryffindor and Hufflepuff stay. Now, Gryffindors stay because they are brave and courageous, and they are glory, like they want glory. Hufflepuff stay because it's the right thing to do,
Mhm.
to fight against systematic oppression. um,
Well,
yeah.
kind of
Um,
literally,
yeah, kind of
and that's
literally in the books. Yeah. But they stay because it's the right thing to do. And so they we've talked about this, or like how SJW is each house. And Hufflepuff can be very SJW, but when
yeah,
they are, it's because they truly believe in it, that it's the right
yeah,
thing. They're not going to be the ones who are like starting riots and things, but if they think it's for the greater good, they will join the riot. Um, yeah,
interesting.
yes.
Whereas
They're
if a
go ahead.
Slytherin was, they'd probably be lying or acting like they care and they don't.
The Slytherin is they could definitely start the riot. Oftentimes, if you're just talking about a general riot, like not in a Harry Potter situation, but a general riot, they're the ones in the back instigating it, but they're not actually the ones in harm's way.
Love it. Okay, so
Um,
let's see.
Negative traits of Hufflepuff include stubbornness. They're naive, too trusting,
Ooh.
could be perceived as pushovers. They generally have a fear of conflict. I mean, they will engage in it if they think it's the right thing, but they are pretty conflict
They're
avoidant.
reluctant to do it.
Yeah, exactly. It was a dire circumstance of the seventh book. So, can be kind of dull, a little bit boring, generally mediocre.
Oh!
Yeah.
That's probably why I don't know. I'm very, like, I need somebody to be interesting. That's probably why I mean, I do have Hufflepuffs in my life, but I could never see myself dating one, if that makes any sense.
I think that does make sense. I feel like Hufflepuffs would make good husbands, but they don't make good girlfriends.
Really?
I don't know. That's just my personal
Interesting.
opinion. It just depends on like a Hufflepuff as a homemaker for sure, but if you have a career woman Hufflepuff,
Oh.
I mean, good luck to you.
Oh my gosh. So, I think the only one that I know of that was notable in the books was, like, Cedric, right?
So there's Cedric Diggory was the number one, Hannah Abbott, and is his name Ernie Macmillan? That sounds wrong. Okay, well, there's a kid who gets like he thinks Harry's out to get him in the second book, and he think Harry sent a snake after him, and then he gets paralyzed by the basilisk. And he was a muggle born, and he's and a very good example of somebody who has a lot of Hufflepuff traits, but lacks a very specific one, and that
Mm.
is this guy is what the hell his name is. I'm such a Harry Potter fan. I can't remember his name, but he's kind of showboaty and he's kind of like boisterous, and that's more of a Gryffindor trait. And but seeing it in a Hufflepuff makes him extra annoying. So yeah,
Okay.
whereas more Hufflepuffs are typically more humble.
Right. And you
Yeah.
said that that's how Cedric was, or that was someone else?
Cedric was like the ideal Hufflepuff. He was like the one who had
Okay.
all the positive traits with very few of the negative ones.
'Cause he was very,
Ernie Macmillan, I was right. Thank you,
okay.
Celtic.
Hello,
Yeah.
John. He was very, I know he was popular because he was what's his face that ended up being Edward too, which is funny, but
Yeah, and he was popular in the books because he was very handsome and he dated Cho Chang and
there
he
was
was
a
a nice
Cho-Chang in the
dude.
books?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Okay, so he was just, like, the ideal Hufflepuff, and he was the star.
Yeah.
Was he, like, playing Quidditch and all that too?
Yeah, he was the Quidditch seeker on the Hufflepuff team.
Oh, okay, so he was very bougie, very, high status Huffle.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Well, I guess so in the Hufflepuff houses, but, like, he seemed like he lived near the Weasleys. They lived in the same area, as Ron Weasley, and so he
Oh,
was also, like, a country kid.
okay.
Mhm.
Well, that makes sense, but I just mean, like, he was popular, like, within
Yeah, he was
Hufflepuff.
popular. He was
Yeah,
popular.
okay,
Um,
okay, and then
the
we all
next
know what
house.
happened,
Oh, yeah.
and I'm blaming Harry.
I blame Harry too. Harry was like, "Let's just take the cup together and win together." Harry, that's what did it. He did it, man. You're the problem. It's you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Okay, so next one is Ravenclaw, which
yes.
is SJW Claw.
Yes, typically. So Ravenclaws, as the Sorting Hat described, were or yet in wise old Ravenclaw, if you've ready mind, where those of wit and learning will always find their kind. Yeah. So they're
Okay.
typically known for pursuits of learning. They're typically intelligent or witty. In order to get into the Ravenclaw house, you have to solve a riddle. So everywhere else, you just need a password. To get in the Ravenclaw,
Riddle.
you have to do a riddle, which would be miserable.
Hate
Um,
that.
I know
Hate
I
that
would
for
not
you.
like that. I'd be like, ugh, I just want to go to bed.
I would hate that. I would
Yeah.
like oh, I would be so pissed.
Yes.
That's all I can say. I'd be trying to work around it.
Waiting for somebody else to come by. Yeah. So there was that, and so, one of the positive traits of Ravenclaw are that they are, of course, cleverness, wisdom, wit, intellectual ability, and creativity. They can be a little weird, and they really like originality,
They're
which is
very I've noticed they're the most individualistic of
yes,
all of them. So they're kind
yes,
of they're out for themselves. It's very
mhm.
you're on your own kid energy.
Yeah. And people always
Um,
think that's a Slytherin trait, and it's like no, Slytherins are
mm-mm.
very into fraternity. They like
No.
it's
Yeah.
um, community loyalty. So the two most loyal houses are actually Hufflepuff, followed by Slytherin. People think it's Gryffindor, but no, it's followed by Slytherin.
It's
Just a different
true.
kind of loyalty. Yes.
Slytherin, it's that's why we have, like, you're on the outs because
Yeah,
there was somewhere to be in the first place. That's why
exactly.
we can cancel you because there was
Yes.
something there before. Ravenclaw, you can't really cancel each other because there's nothing there anyways. You're kinda on your own and you're just like Moaning Myrtle.
hmm So Celtic says also, wasn't Cedric's family a starting blood family? What does that mean? I've never heard that term
I'm
before.
not sure.
Can you explain Celtic? We'll get back to you once you explain. Um, yeah, so negative traits of the Ravenclaw, in my opinion, can be the most obnoxious negative traits of the Ravenclaw. Snobby, arrogant, proud, SJW,
SJW, yeah.
smug, intellectually isolated. Um,
Oh,
and so
that's a bad one.
what I mean by that is that they don't they will pursue their own thinking, like, they're typical, like, researchers, but they don't like outside opinions, they don't like out they would think they want to learn, but they're obsessed with their own lane, and that their own lane is right. Like, there's a really funny story that, they tell about Hufflepuffs and Ravenclaws, where there's a famous Hufflepuff, inventor of the The potion that you take if you're a werewolf to make sure that you don't fully turn on the full moon. And it was invented by a Hufflepuff. And he got into a fight with a Ravenclaw kid because the Ravenclaw kid insisted that no, it's something that unique and amazing and beneficial to
Oh gosh.
society, need to be so smart, could never have been invented by Hufflepuff, had to be invented by a Ravenclaw. But it wasn't
Wow.
original. Yes. So that's
Yeah, that's bad.
why. Yeah. So
Okay. Moving on.
pedantic, want to be creative and original, but often are not.
Yes, but sometimes they are. Like, we
Yeah.
all love Luna Lovegood. I love her
Yes.
too. Definitely, 100%.
Yeah.
Love.
And Luna Lovegood is definitely the epitome of the creative side of a Ravenclaw. She might be not
Yeah.
be the most intellectual as far as like
Mhm.
studious, but she is highly creative, which is definitely a Ravenclaw trait. Um, people they would think of someone more like Hermione who ends up in Gryffindor or someone being Ravenclaw. And yes, there are a lot of
Mhm.
Ravenclaws like Hermione. Hermione definitely has a lot of those Ravenclaw traits. She's just a little too insane to be in Ravenclaw, in my opinion. We'll get back to that later. Um, she's crazy. She is crazy. She locked
She's
a woman in a
super.
jar for a full season. Okay, guys. Anyways,
She's SJW.
she's
Hermione is
totally
Alexis
yes.
Woman for
She's an
sure, but
SJW and she kidnapped a human being for 3 months. It's not a
the
just
ends
kidding.
justify the means.
Justify the means because she was like, well, that woman should not have been lying in the newspaper. And I'm like, okay, Ravenclaw would
Oh my
never do
god.
that. Whereas a
Crazy.
Gryffindor who is like, I'm going to do the right thing.
That's so funny. Um, okay, so who else was Cho Chang, that's her name, right?
Cho Chang was Ravenclaw.
Ravenclaw, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, they usually portrayed Ravenclaw in a decent light. Did they have any like negative characters or people that J.K.
Yeah.
Rowling didn't like?
Yeah. So with Ravenclaw, like I said, they're typically fine. They're not the worst. I mean, I could think they're the worst house, but they don't have like the worst people in it. So one of the big plot points in the fifth book, which is not portrayed in the fifth movie, but in the fifth book, Harry starts dating Cho Chang. Cho Chang has a best friend. Cho Chang brings her best friend to the Order of Phoenix meetings and makes her sign up with her, even though she's reluctant because this best friend's mother works for the Ministry of Magic.
Mhm.
And Hermione, being the devilish Gryffindor that she is, decides to curse all the sign-up sheet. So, not
Oh
telling anyone, by
my
the
god.
way, that if they betray the order, the well, not that order of things, the Dumbledore's army is what they called it. If they betrayed the Dumbledore's army, that they would get a giant curse that said like snitch or sneak across their face. Basically, snitch with like sneak across
Oh
their
my
face in
god.
giant zits, and it never went away. She had it until like the end of sixth year. This is fifth year, so she had it for like over a year. and um and so anyways, uh Cho Chang's friend turns the Dumbledore's army in of her own accord because she doesn't really care. She's out for herself. She's afraid that she's going to get in trouble, so she's going to throw everybody else under the bus so that she does not get in trouble.
Mm.
And when Harry confronts Cho about this, he said, "Hey, your friend's kind of a BRTCH." Cho Chang defends her friend, and I'm like, so
Ew.
so they do some pretty gross things as Ravenclaws. Like that's the biggest example. That's
Yeah.
the most interaction that they have with Ravenclaws in the books.
Snitch.
Yeah, snitch. But it's like sneak. I think it's like sneak across the face in
Yeah.
giant zits.
Ew.
Mhm.
Well, that's what happens.
Yeah, don't mess with Hermione.
Gosh. Hermione, she must be like an Enneagram 1 or something. She sounds crazy.
I don't know, she's okay, so I know that she grows up to be, like, a wizard lawyer, where she fights for, like, social justice in the government.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay,
yeah,
girl.
but if we
That's
had
just
we're
moving
gonna
to the
after this
end.
rank the level of SJW each house is, but just know that Ravenclaw is up there. Uh,
I think Ravenclaw's probably
I think they're number 2, but we'll get to that. Anyways, um, Gryffindor, my house, I
Ooh.
I I love it and I hate it at the same time. God, you're
I
funny.
know.
Um, as the Sorting Hat says, you might belong in Gryffindor, where dwell the brave at heart. Their daring, nerve, and chivalry sets Gryffindors apart. Um, Positive traits
Ooh.
include confidence. They're idealistic, daring, valiant, courageous, willful, adventurous, passionate, bold, and they have good leadership skills.
Nice.
Yeah, their negative traits including being angry, hot-headed, impulsive, arrogant, too bold, reckless, SJW, showboaters, and a bit cocky. That's how they all get
Okay.
killed.
So obviously, we have to address a bit of J.K. Rowling's bias. J.K. Rowling herself is a Gryffindor, which means the books and the movie and everything, Gryffindor is the best thing ever because the writer is a Gryffindor, which
Yeah.
makes sense. I mean, I'm about it. Like, I get
Mhm.
it.
Although if you did ask her, I told you, she said in an interview that Hufflepuff was the best house, authentically and by objective measures, but she
I
does
wouldn't
definitely
believe that.
write the book series in a biased light. If I think if we were to ask her about it, she would probably say it's like, "Well, because Harry's a Gryffindor and the book's from his point of view, and he thinks Gryffindor is the best."
That's such a Gryffindor thing for her to do, but
Yeah.
for her to say, "No, it's because you think it's the best, JK. It's fine. We get it."
Mhm. Yeah.
But, okay, so I obviously, we know the main people of the
Yeah.
books are
They're referred
Gryffindor.
to as the
There's
Golden Trio.
Yes, there's
Mhm.
tons of Gryffindor representation, to say it in a an SJW way, so I don't think we have to cover the traits as much, but I do wanna ask you, as somebody who read the books, who what were some examples of some negative people in the book, if anybody exists?
Oh, yeah, Peter Pettigrew is the example that she uses. So he was, one of the best friends with Harry's father, James Potter. So there was the 4, marauders, they call them, and they created the Marauders map, and that was the map you could use to get around all different aspects of Hogwarts. And it was made up of James Potter, Sirius Black, Lupin, Remus Lupin, and, Peter Pettigrew. Now, Peter Pettigrew did not have 10% of the traits that were in Gryffindor. And he's a perfect example of somebody who was very un-Gryffindor who got into Gryffindor because he wanted to
Mm.
probably be in Gryffindor.
Oh.
Um, but he did have a lot of the negative traits of Gryffindor. I would say they would have a lot of the positive
Oh.
traits. So negative as he wanted the glory, but he didn't really have anything that would make him, you know, glorful. Um, and so one of the big things that he does is that um Harry's parents have to go into hiding after they give birth to him because they know Voldemort's trying to kill him. And they didn't want to do like a secret keeping spell where nobody can find them as long as the secret keeper does not reveal them. And they originally asked Sirius Black, James's best friend, to do it. And Sirius Black has an idea and he says, "No, you should make it Peter Pettigrew. Nobody would ever think that you would make this guy your secret keeper because look at him." And little did they know that he was a double agent for Voldemort. And so they made him secret keeper. And that same night, he went to Voldemort, told Voldemort, "Hey,
Oh.
I know where the Potters are." And that's how Voldemort found him.
Ooh, that's really bad. Dang, when they get bad, they get really bad.
Yeah.
Caleb, Miss Lisa is our human sorting hat. That's how we're determining it.
I think is how we're determining if they're problematic. And basically, we just chose any random YouTuber and called them problematic because we thought it was funny.
They're all problematic. No, I'm
Yes,
just
including Alex.
Ooh, no,
Yes.
I'm just kidding.
So Alex is a
No, I'm an
problematic
angel.
YouTuber.
I'm a wonderful Ravenclaw according to my audience, so I'm fine.
It's so funny to me that Celtic is saying this. He said that um Gryffindor was J.K. Rowling's like chosen house, but that she was sorted into Slytherin. And hey, you don't make $1 billion for nothing, right?
I do think she's a Gryffindor, though. I really
Yeah.
do.
There's also a difference between the person that you are intrinsically as a child and the person that you grow into.
Yeah, that you become.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and there's something that Dumbledore says about how, maybe we sort people too soon, and I'm like, "Why do you sort people at all?" I mean, unless we're doing it for a YouTube video. But yeah,
You must sort people, ma'am.
yeah,
I'm
we have to
just kidding.
categorize everybody. Everybody needs a label.
No, I think it's good for, like, I think it was a good idea in terms of the school, but it's
The
just a
story, yeah.
school thing. Yeah, well, the
Yeah,
story, but to me, it's fine as a school thing because that's what boarding schools do.
yeah,
But I would say, like, it's interesting just because I do think she is a Gryffindor, definitely. As someone who is a Slytherin, and like I said,
mhm,
I would have been sorted from a young age. Like, I've
yeah,
always been a Slytherin. I'm like 100% a Slytherin.
and
I don't see her as my own.
I also don't think the test on Pottermore is 100% accurate just
It's
because
not.
you get to actually interact with the hat when you're, like, on
Right.
the stool of the story. You can ask it questions, and he can ask you if you can figure things out together if you need it, just like Harry and Hermione did when they had the hat on them. Um,
Mhm.
and so we don't get that opportunity when we take the test. So I think if J.K. Rowling went into that test, she would be like, "I can't wait to be sorted as a Gryffindor," and the hat would be like, "Well, I guess she doesn't want to be a Slytherin," and it would put her in Gryffindor. You know?
Yeah, I think she's definitely more on the Gryffindor side for sure, but because she is bombastic and she does want the glory. That's how she is, which is fine. Um,
Okay,
okay.
Celtic is saying, and you saw my thing about isn't Cedric's family a Sacred 28, the original starting pure blood families? I have no idea, Celtic. I mean, that could be it. I wouldn't be surprised. I bet the Weasleys are some. I bet the Blacks are some. I bet the Malfoys are some.
Interesting. The stream
Yeah,
is so violently transphobic. Oh my gosh. How?
because we're
I need
talking
to
about
do
J.K. Rowling.
Oh, I get you. It's
She's
like,
a
gosh, if I just breathe as a Slytherin, it's a problem.
yeah.
What I wonder what Caleb's house is. Oh my
I
god,
don't
this
know.
cat
That's a
is,
good
like, being
question.
crazy.
But let's talk a little bit about my experience about why I'm a Gryffindor. So the reason
Yeah.
why I'm a Gryffindor is I am very adventurous. And my like to be adventurous, you have to be brave. You have to be like you have to be extremely brave to do things. So for example, I spent a lot of my 20s solo traveling around Asia. Just me, a 20 something girl, walking through the
Crazy.
streets of Thailand by myself. Like that takes a lot of guts to do that. And I knew a lot of people who weren't Gryffindors who did similar things, but they
Different.
had other traits that kind of dragged them in other directions. And whereas me, it's like I when I was 22, I went and decided I'm going to live in Japan for 5 years by myself at a small town where nobody speaks English.
Right.
Just like put yourself in challenging positions, having to be brave, having to approach people. Extroversion is definitely a big trait of being a Gryffindor. It's very hard if you're an introverted Gryffindor.
Ah, that's interesting. I didn't think
Yeah.
about that. That
Yeah.
does make
Because
sense, though.
Gryffindors are partiers. They like the party. They're very much in the jock culture, as in like they like the popularity and the celebration of winning. They love to win, just like I do. And like I've thrown some really great parties. So it's just yeah.
I see it. I see it
Mhm.
plain as day. I honestly, Gryffindor is one of my favorite houses for sure.
Yeah.
Love. I have a lot
Yeah.
of close friends that are Gryffindor. I have
Yeah.
best friends that are Gryffindor. They're
Mm.
definitely probably my second fave.
Aw.
I
Well,
think we all know what my favorite is, but
the one they have the hat on with. Um, but anyways, in the books though, Gryffindor and Slytherin once upon a time were best friends, and then same thing with Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff, they were best friends, and um, yep, that's so it makes sense. And I always called Slytherin and Gryffindor two sides of the same coin.
Mm.
Just one's a little bit more shrewd and one's a little bit more boisterous.
I think too, one is more like, to me, Gryffindors are very trusting in comparison, at least, to
Yeah,
Slytherin. Slytherin is very skeptical of people, like,
yeah,
because which we'll get into it soon,
hmm
but, um, the difference is Gryffindors are more likable by,
hmm
like, the broad population, and it comes easier to them. Maybe not always, but in typically it does. Whereas like with Slytherin, we're always met with skepticism immediately from others or even
hmm
judgment. So when
yeah,
you live your whole life like that, you don't trust people very easily or very
yeah.
quickly.
But I would have a different conclusion to that. I feel like Slytherins by nature are more skeptical, and so when you're acting calculated towards everyone, people will act calculated towards you
Yeah, I don't know. I think
because
mm.
because Slytherins have their in group, and so when you see people have an in group, you're like, what's going on in that group? Anyways,
People are
become
haters.
a Slytherin, as the hat says, or perhaps
Best
a
house ever.
Slytherin. You'll make your real friends, those cunning folks, use any means to achieve their ends. So when you have a description like that, you're like achieve like anything
Bias.
to achieve your ends. Yeah. Um, Positive traits: cunning, ambitious, determined, resourceful, self-reliant, fraternity, shrewd, self-preservation, adaptable, good leadership skills.
Does make sense.
Mhm.
I
Negative
think the
thinking.
biggest thing right off the bat is the self-preservation, that is huge. That is a huge
Yes.
Slytherin value. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't ever think about that, you're not a Slytherin. Get out of my
Yeah.
house. I'm just kidding.
Whereas Gryffindors are very self-sacrificing, and this has definitely been a weakness of
Mhm.
mine before. I've had to learn self-preservation over time. I definitely have more Slytherin in me now as an adult than I did,
Right.
but there's been many times where I would sacrifice my time, energy, or even reputation for somebody else,
Makes
only for
sense.
them to not return the favor, and I'm like, 'cause that to me, it's like, this is the right thing to do. You don't deserve to have this awful thing happen to you, and then they self-preserve themselves, and I'm like, What? But what? I've stuck my neck out for you, and you chopped it off." But that's, like, a weakness that Gryffindors do have.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, whereas
Mhm.
now these days, I'm like, "I don't care what you do it yourself. I'm staying over here. I'm
Right.
running away because 'cause I've been
Right.
scored one too many times."
So,
Um
obviously, the negative traits are evil.
Yeah, so negative traits
Evil.
are they can be stuck up, haughty, selfish, overly ambitious at the expense of others, disloyal if the person is not in their community, and cynical.
Ooh,
Mhm,
ooh, that's actually pretty good. That was a good
mhm,
description. Did you write
yeah.
that?
I mean, I took words, I Googled Slytherin traits, so I didn't have to do
Okay.
my own thesaurus, and I picked the ones that I agreed with and left the ones that I was like,
Yeah.
some Enneagram 4 wrote this, and they had no idea what they're talking about.
They probably were just, like, evil and racist and
Pretty much.
mean and whatever, right? That's probably what it said, and you left those
Yeah,
ones out. I think
yeah,
they do have probably the most, like you said, the most issue with
mhm,
racism in Slytherin, but it
yeah,
does make sense because it is about community values. It's community, it's
mhm.
fraternity, which is huge, and
But
loyalty.
JK Rowling made dang sure that it was not about skin color because she made one of the more prominent Slytherins black.
Interesting. Well,
Yeah,
it isn't, at least not to me. I've never cared about it, but I guess they don't care about skin color. They care about it about the if you're
blood
muggle
purity,
born or whatever.
blood purity. They were kind of like more like
Mhm.
Nazis.
According through a Gryffindor lens, I'm sure.
Blood purity. They wanted to make the pure magical race.
Oh gosh. Interesting. I think,
Well, yeah.
well, obviously we have 50 billion evil examples of
Yeah.
Slytherin,
But let's talk about the
Voldemort.
good ones.
Don't ever say his name.
But
You
we can
can't
talk about the
even
good ones.
name it.
uh,
I
Tom
like
Riddle.
Malfoy,
Tom
so y'all can hate. I would've had fun with Malfoy. I
Yeah.
probably would've probably had a crush on him.
Malfoy, um, what in my opinion, is likely a good person who's led astray by the fact of his upbringing.
His
His
family was
father
kinda,
yeah.
yeah.
His mom was a good person, who got fell in with some bad people, in my opinion, made some really bad decisions, but did the right thing at the end, where she decided she
Okay.
cared more about her family than she did about any of this war because she was the one. So what happens in the book and a little bit in the movie, but it's kind of you don't really understand why she does it in the movie, but you understand why she does it in the book. When Voldemort kills Harry and they both wake up and they realize that they're both alive, Voldemort does not know that Harry is alive. He sends Narcissa Malfoy, which is Malfoy's mother, over to check on him. She realizes Harry's alive and she leans down close to him, pretends that she's listening for a heartbeat, and she whispers to him, is Draco still alive?" And Harry goes, "Yes." He whispers yes to her. And then she tells Voldemort that he's dead. So she betrays Voldemort right then because she cares more about her son's life than she does about this, snake looking dude. Yeah. With no
No,
nose. And and by this point, Malfoy's dad is also like a little over Voldemort. And he was like, because Voldemort's been living in Malfoy's house for the last year, and is treating them like crap. And so they when their fraternity gets narrowed, they care more about their family than they do about anything else. And so one of the reasons
makes sense.
why the Battle of Hogwarts succeeds is because of Narcissa Malfoy. Another good example of a Slytherin is Slughorn, who is the potions teacher in the sixth book, and he's a good example of a Slytherin because he has no like he's not malevolent at all, but he's very ambitious, and he collects students like prizes. and he makes connections with them when they're young, so when they grow up and become famous, because he finds the really intelligent ones first and the really
Oh,
ones
that
he thinks
was
would be
so
successful. He can get things from them when they're older, like free stuff. You know, like so, but he's not a bad
interesting.
person, and he has a lot of guilt around his. He's one of the reasons why Voldemort became Voldemort, because he told Voldemort about Horcruxes, and he feels guilty even teaching him about that, because all this stuff wouldn't have happened if he hadn't taught him that. But he was just doing it out of curiosity. He didn't actually in his brain ever think somebody would do something bad
Mhm.
with that information. So he was a good person who had guilt over the bad things that he might have contributed to. And he was also, he loved Harry's mom. He was like, he was one of
Mhm.
his favorite students, and he loved her so much, and that's one of the reasons why he was so guilt racked when she died, because he felt
Mm.
like he was partially
Must have been
responsible.
devastating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I I definitely see myself as a Slytherin, obviously. As I said, like in 6th grade, I was already exclusive. I was very exclusive already. I've always been I think what people don't get about Slytherins is
Mhm.
that yeah, we have a list, Caleb. What people don't get about Slytherins is that we value greatness. We value greatness even more than credit. You don't
Mhm.
even need to have credit as a Slytherin. It's all about impact. So
Mhm.
knowing that I changed the course of history as a Slytherin, that's something I've wanted from a very, very young age. Even if I got 0 credit for it, it wouldn't even matter. It's just
Mhm.
knowing that we have that, and I also think too there is an a sort of power to being a
Mhm.
Slytherin, and that can be scary because if you don't act in the way that you mean to, you can make something really horrible happen without realizing it, or,
Yeah.
'cause I think we can be very persuasive, and I think too, when you can do good things and you can do bad things, but
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
you're always yeah, it's
And you
just
bring up an
different.
interesting point, because Slytherins are very power focused. But what does that mean? It doesn't mean they need to be in charge. It doesn't mean that they want to be the one in power, but they like power. So look at Slughorn. He wasn't really in charge of anything. Like, he was the head of Slytherin House back in the day, and he's a professor now. But he's about self empowerment. He wants to do things to enrich himself, not
Mhm.
at the expense of others, but just to be in a more affluent
Yeah.
position. Which, there's nothing wrong with that. And whereas you look at what kind of power that grip, like about changing the world kind of power. So they can
Mhm.
do it that way, or they want to impact, but they don't care about getting the credit.
Mm-mm.
Gryffindors would care about getting the credit.
Yes, which
Yeah.
is that's fine. And to me, it's like I can understand that, but I
Mhm.
personally don't care. I don't really care about being liked, which that's
Mhm.
another thing about Slytherin is it's like
Yeah.
we have a lot of the ambition of a Gryffindor, a lot of even some bravery, right? In certain ways, not as brave, but we do have bravery. But we are also very covert too, and we can do things covertly
Mhm.
because, like you brought up the example of Malfoy's mom, that's very covert in the
Yeah.
moment, totally like this, but it makes
But
sense
she's
to me.
cunning and
Yes,
calculated.
very
Yeah.
much so. And I think too, the self-preservation is huge.
Yeah.
And I will have my mini SJW moment where I just say there is a huge anti-Slytherin bias in American culture. They
It's
don't
true.
like it.
It's true.
And then same with JK Rowling herself, but
Yeah.
that's just her. But I think in other parts of the world, that a lot of these values of like community values,
Mhm.
fraternity, right, not being all about just you
Mhm.
is good. But I think too, other houses don't understand that we are self-preserving because we go so fucking hard for
Yeah.
the people in our in group that we
Yeah.
have to, otherwise we die.
Yeah. Well, definitely, and I would say Celtic, you're right. He confiscated Lucius Malfoy's wand in the 7th book, because he was like, "My wand's not working against Harry. This is weird." And, 'cause the wand he stole from Dumbledore wasn't working. So he was like, "I'm gonna do an experiment," and he stole Lucius's wand. And you have to understand, like, wizards bond with their wands. Their wand is like
Right.
becomes like their best friend. And when Voldemort uses it, it gets destroyed. And that's just like, so he took like the most one of the most important things to him, and just
Mm.
broke it. And he was like, too bad. You work for me anyways."
You might be a Hufflepuff, Shannon, by the way. I'd like to know what Caleb is.
I don't know
Um,
much about Caleb.
I don't know what Caleb is. Caleb might be a Sith. I'm gonna
I don't
just
know. He gives me Slytherin vibes. I'm just
I think
saying.
he
With the
might
very
be.
little I know
I'm
about
just
him.
saying.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Um. Well,
It's okay,
anyways,
brother.
now that we've talked at length about what all of these houses are, and if you guys have more questions, please ask us. We are going to get into now sorting each house and just not sorting each house, sorry, sorting problematic YouTubers into each house. And we
Yes.
have added Jeffree Star to the list. And if you guys have any more people that you're curious about as we go through it,
Yes.
please let us know. But do know this is a very long list, and we probably have some of the people on it that you are wondering about. So, but yeah, type it in if you know, and I will put it in if it's one we do not have.
Yes, definitely. So, we do
The
have
way I
quite a
want yeah.
list.
The way I wanna do this, Alex, by the way, is I want to, we're gonna get the name and we're gonna go through why they're not these houses and what houses we think they could be.
Interesting.
So we're gonna do it this way. So, like, for example, our first person is Tim Pool, the
Ooh.
Tim Pool of Timcast and Cast Castle and all these different things. Tim Pool extraordinaire, makes $3.5 million a month, Tim Pool. Raised on the I wasn't born on the south side of Chicago, and
It's so
yeah,
interesting because
mhm,
when I first asked Lisa about him, she
mhm,
said that he would be a hot stall, and I agree because
yeah,
he has a lot of traits of
he
a
does,
lot of houses.
yeah. He, is
Um,
definitely not a Hufflepuff, that much I will say.
no, 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 no.
He's not that one we're ruling out right away. He definitely has Ravenclaw qualities because he's very creative
Anal.
and anal, yeah, but the big
Has to be
the big
done
thing it
his
comes down
way.
to is he a Gryffindor or is he a Slytherin? And what
Mhm.
you have to look at when I think you look at this. So, what makes him a Slytherin? What gives him those Slytherin traits? What makes him Gryffindor? What gives him those Gryffindor traits? What gives him Slytherin traits? He's very, very ambitious. We can see that by the fact that he has this huge company. Um, he makes a lot of money. He's not a very good boss. We know that much. Um, he will screw people over who he feels like are not beneficial to him. But what Slytherin traits is he lacking? He doesn't have fraternity. It's all about
It's all
The Tim
him.
show. Yeah,
It's
it's all
literally in
about
the
him.
name.
Mhm.
Mhm.
He definitely wants power and to make change,
He
but
does
he's
want
very
impact, but he
yeah, but
wants credit.
yes, and he's very obsessed with him getting credit. So, like, I always think about, like, he put out this video last month, which was emotional, but very weird, and it was about him crying over his cat dying, or his cat's about to die, and yes, it's a very sad thing. But he just
Yes.
kept talking about he talked about for 30 minutes. He's like, "I just wanna put this video out here that maybe in 200 years, they'll find this video and they'll see a guy crying over his cat." And I'm like, "You didn't cry once in this video, for one," which is I mean, fine, you don't have to cry on camera. I still believe that you love your cat, but you
Right.
literally talked for half an hour about how you think it's amazing that people will see the fact that you cared about your cat, rather than showing us that you cared about your cat. And this is why, in my personal opinion, Tim Pool is a Gryffindor. Because
I
yeah.
I definitely think so,
Mhm,
especially just because when he was younger, he was very, very leftisty, very
mhm.
lefty,
He was
which is
SJW.
more it's more of a Gryffindor thing. We gotta
It
call
is.
a spade, and he also definitely, I guarantee you at a young age would have said, "I wanna be a Gryffindor." And that would have been
Yes.
enough.
Yes,
'Cause Slytherin's evil.
he's very brave. He's very brave. He's gone
Yes.
into riots, he's gone into war zones, he's gone into places where are very dangerous. Because you have to understand the thing about Gryffindors. They will put themselves into dangerous positions because either it's the right thing to do or it's like they think they can make an impact. And so they
Mhm.
will so he'll get that camera footage because he's thinking this is incredible. How much change can I do? What good things in the world can I do with this crazy thing that I've done? And I can't wait to put my name on it too. And that's Tim
Yes,
Pool.
definitely. When he's all about legacy. So everything
Yes.
is, "I want this legacy. This is on me." The
Mhm.
name Timcast is a
Mhm.
lot, but I do value Gryffindors a lot because
Mhm.
I'm a Slytherin and I'm more introverted for
Yeah.
sure, and I would struggle with going into a war zone or going into a riot. Like, I would have a really hard time doing that.
Mhm.
I'm self-preserving, right? So
Yeah.
that's putting myself in danger. I don't do that. It would be like I'd be breaking rule number 1 of Slytherin code.
Yeah.
But
And I wanna
Gryffindors go for it, you know?
definitely. And I wanna address what Shannon said. She said maybe he wanted to stave off rumors of being cold after his dealings with Adam. Definitely, he wants to show he has a more
Oh,
emotional side after how
100%.
he stabbed Ab in the back because Gryffindors are not in they're not like, probably the 3rd most loyal house. They're in the bottom half of that loyalty pool. Um, if he were a
That makes sense.
Slytherin, he would've that issue would not even have occurred, in my personal opinion. So,
Yeah.
Tim is only loyal to people who are he perceives as being loyal to him, which is yeah. Um,
Yeah. Well, and I think
yeah,
too, Slytherins are a bit more calculated.
yeah,
So, I would have in his position, someone like me would have noticed Adam is having issues with this dynamic. Let me
yeah.
get him out of this house, and I'm gonna hide this better that I'm doing this because it's
He
pissing him off. Because 'cause you'd
he
wanna preserve your reputation as well, if you
exactly, and
wanted to.
Griffin well, see, Slytherins do care about the reputation, but not in the same way.
Not at
So,
the same way, yeah.
because a Slytherin would not have acknowledged the issue.
Yes.
Um, I mean, there are cases when a Slytherin will, and it's a mistake, but a Slytherin who knows what they're doing will not acknowledge the issue. So you have to hurt a Slytherin significantly to get them to acknowledge it, and that we'll talk about that with the Daily Wire in a bit. But it but Tim didn't really lose money over the whole Adam thing. There was no reason
No.
for him to
No.
address the issue. He addressed it because his reputation was being ruined, and so Gryffindors definitely are care about that reputation
They
aspect.
care a
They want to
lot.
be
Yeah.
perceived in a good light, and also another thing too. So the Gryffindors are very competitive. So that was another thing that Adam constantly talked about is that Tim was constantly trying to
Yes.
compete with Adam over really dumb things that Adam didn't care about. Adam's like, "I'm not even competing with you," and people just could not stand it. If you ever had a friend who you're like you play a board game with or something like that, and the person is like the worst winner and the worst like loser, that person is likely a Gryffindor.
Yes. And I definitely agree too. Like
Mhm,
as a Slytherin, I'm very, very competitive, but about
mhm.
certain things.
Yeah,
And only in very, very specific things. And if I am, I will be so competitive that it is covert. It's
yeah,
like I won't even talk about how competitive I am because I don't want to lose my edge. Whereas
mhm.
Gryffindor, it's like they're just always competitive about everything all the
Yeah,
time.
and
So it
I
makes
would
sense.
and I would say I'm actually on the lower end of competitiveness for Gryffindor, and I'm still pretty
And
competitive,
you're pretty competitive,
but
yeah.
I'm not obnoxiously so because,
Yeah,
I grew up my brother is also Gryffindor, and he is obnoxiously competitive, and so because I had that example, I was like, "I
you
don't wanna
win.
be that." So I was like I lucked out, I guess, in that regard.
That's
So, yeah,
funny.
I can win
Uh,
a board game without flipping the table, or lose a board game without flipping the table, you know what I mean?
right.
Um, yeah, so
Right.
so yeah, we're putting Tim Pool solidly in the Gryffindor category, and now we're gonna move on to his former producer, Lydia.
I have no idea because okay, this is weird because when I think of Lydia, I think I do think she'd be a hot stall as well?
I think it's possible, and not because she has multiple traits between houses, but because she would want to have traits from different houses, but she really doesn't.
I think she'd be fighting with the hat like hell.
Yeah, the hat's like here's the thing though, but all at the same time, she would probably justify it. She'd probably want to be a Gryffindor. For sure, she wants to
Oh,
be a Gryffindor, but
100%.
she's
She's not
not.
though.
She's
No
not.
way. No way
Um,
in hell.
she, has some Slytherin traits, she is very
Yes.
calculated. She's very,
Yes.
manipulative, which is mhm. She manipulated herself into a position of power, and then wielded that power over others. So that is a very Slytherin trait,
Yes.
but
She
she is
does have
not in
Southern
yeah.
traits.
But she's not inherently Slytherin. She is, she has some kind of, like, Hufflepuff aspirations and the fact that she wants to be a homemaker and stuff, but she's not a
It's not
Hufflepuff.
real.
She doesn't have the loyalty or the trusting or the hardworkingness. She can say she's a hard worker. I don't buy
I
it.
haven't
She
seen
wor
it. Yeah.
and I will give you an example. She worked for Tim Pool for, like, what? 2.5 years as his producer, and then when she started her own channel, she couldn't even figure out how to get a freaking live stream started with
Oh,
working sound and picture. It took her, like, 3 full attempts to be able to do it. It took her even further to know how to use proper lighting, and I'm like, "What did you do for 2.5 years and not like, did you learn nothing?"
gosh.
This Lydia really annoys me, by the way, just in case you noticed.
So I think we know what I have to say I do agree. I do
Mhm.
agree with what you're saying. So
Yeah.
she's you know
John
she is. John doesn't
she's
want
a
to
muggle.
acknowledge it.
That's probably the best answer. Yeah, but if I had to throw her in a house and I have a justification for this, I would probably pick her as being a Ravenclaw,
I
and
agree.
not a highly intelligent Ravenclaw,
No.
a pseudo-intellectual Ravenclaw, one who wishes they were more intelligent, but just isn't.
I think she's very to me, she's very anal, she's very by the
Yeah.
book, everything
Mhm.
has 50 billion explanations, and if she would have been a Slytherin, she would never have addressed what
Yeah.
Adam said, ever.
Yeah. But if
She
you look at her
had to.
personality, she's like, "I just embrace stoicism."
Oh
Like,
gosh,
she
she
tries to
did not
pretend to
do
be
that.
deep.
She did
She
not. The thing is too, is that she had to wait until she got the okay from Tim to say something. That was
Mhm.
the cringiest thing to me, and as a Slytherin, that never would have happened in my life, and as if she was a Gryffindor girl, you would have done it if you wanted to,
Yeah,
period,
exactly.
and even
And if you're a
Hufflepuff,
Hufflepuff, you never would have slept with Tim Pool.
that would have never happened, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it would have been dishonorable,
Mhm.
or,
Yeah.
yeah, or
Um,
wrong. Interesting. Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Very
anyways,
good.
yeah, so I put her in Ravenclaw, and I put her in Ravenclaw because, like I said, she's pseudo-intellectual. She aspires to know things, but she gets to that point where she thinks she knows a lot, but really she knows very little. So she has the pursuit of wit and learning, but lacks wisdom.
She does have SJW qualities too,
Yeah, she does.
I would say. She is
Yeah,
definitely conservative, but she's what they call woke right for sure.
yeah. And so, yeah, we forgot to talk about that. So the rankings of the SJW houses, Gryffindor is the most SJW
Yes.
because they're the ones who are like, take to the streets. I mean, they'll just jump impulsively into something without knowing what they're doing, and because they think this is the right thing to do, we have to punch people in the face. Those are
Yes.
Gryffindor. Ravenclaws are like, sorry, they're like the SJW professors at universities who are like, I'm going to change a generation by teaching them how to be activists.
Yes, the Ravenclaws are they're the SJWs that are the elitist, the "I have my rich house up in the hills, but I'm gonna talk down to you poor people." That's the Ravenclaw, whereas
Yeah,
the Gryffindor would be out in the streets with them.
yeah.
Um,
Definitely. And then, I would say number 3 is Hufflepuff. People are surprised, like, "Oh my god,
yes,
Slytherin's not the most SJW." No, next is Hufflepuff. And Hufflepuff is not the obnoxious
no,
SJW.
they
Hufflepuff
actually
is the
care.
I've met many Hufflepuff type people in the school systems who are like, they really believe in what they're doing. They think they're doing the right thing. They have some doubts about some things, but at the same time, they're like, but why would I be being told to do this if it's not
Mm,
if it's wrong? Like so they're the true believers where they believe in
yeah,
it, but they don't really like,
there's
they're
no,
like
like,
they're not
malice there,
yeah, they're not
yeah,
doing it with malice. They're doing it because they think it's the right thing to do. Um, and they're also the ones that you can change the minds of.
yes,
Mhm.
if you
If you
show
put
the
yeah,
reason, yeah,
definitely.
and then
And then Slytherin's last because if Slytherin is an SJW, they're not really an SJW, they're just pretending to be in order to get something they want.
yes, there's nothing SJW about being a Slytherin at all. So if you guys ever saw me looking like an SJW, it's completely performative. It's a complete act. I am not an SJW at all. Like the House of Slytherin is just there's that's why they get so much hate because they're not SJW at all.
Yeah, and they don't also see, the thing about SJW-ness is that you have to go with popular opinions. People always made fun of them, but you have to realize they're saying this in the it comfortably. They're saying all their opinions comfortably, whereas Slytherins are the ones who are brave enough to say the unpopular
Yes.
opinions.
They can be bad opinions or good opinions,
Yeah,
but they are unpopular. Yeah.
exactly. Um, well, next we have Adam.
Oh, Adam. What do
Yeah,
you guys think Adam is? We'll open that up
yeah.
to
What
you guys.
do you
I'm
guys think about
interested
Adam?
in your take.
Adam Krigler. And John Doyle's on the list.
Yes, John Doyle is definitely on the list. I Adam. So why don't I guess we'll get started, but you guys can tell us what you like your first thought of what you think he is, but we're gonna get started here, I guess.
Well, he's definitely not a Ravenclaw
So why would you say that right off the bat?
because he didn't have any intrinsic pursuit of learning. He only felt like that. He'll say that like it's like I love reading and learning about things and I'll just go down an internet avenue, but he didn't get that way until he was like in his 40s.
Yeah, well, I think too, you can tell with Adam, he really
Mhm.
cares about other people. You
Yeah.
know, he's not individualist. I don't see
Mhm.
that. He's not
No.
like trying to be different, trying to be special, trying to be, whatever. Is he really, Gusta? Or you just hate him?
No, he's a
Are you talking
Pisces,
about his
but
sign?
he's just saying he's Cancer as in the disease. But Adam is a Pisces. Adam is, not a Slytherin in my opinion because although he does have that really big sense of fraternity and
Yeah.
loyalty, it's he will break against someone if he finds that they've slighted him. He has a lot of Gryffindor traits. He's definitely brave and adventurous. He will be a little bit impulsive, but I think when it comes down to it, in my personal opinion, Adam is a Hufflepuff. It just what Celtic
Mhm.
said. Yeah, he's Hufflepuff because he has that extreme loyalty. I mean, if
Yes.
Tim Pool had done the things to Adam, like did the same things Adam has he done to Alex. Let's say he did the things to Alex. Alex would have wasted no time going after Tim and being like, "You bitch," you
Well,
know?
especially at a young age,
Yeah,
definitely. But
yeah,
even like the thing is, I would have been up out of the house faster
mhm,
than you could even see.
yeah,
Adam stayed even after he fired him from the show. He still stayed for like
yeah,
I'm just like, dude, only
because
a
the
Hufflepuff.
friendship was more
Yeah,
important. A Gryffindor would not have put up with that.
no.
Gryffindor was like, "The friendship's over, bye." Ravenclaw would not put up with that because Ravenclaw would be like, "This is not logical, I don't understand," right?
He'd be like,
And
this isn't in my best interest. I'm out of here.
exactly,
Or your
exactly,
values are off or whatever. I
mhm,
don't know. You're not fair. I don't know what
yeah,
they'd say. Whereas Hufflepuff, like they care about fairness so much, but like you
mhm,
said, the loyalty aspect is so incredibly strong
yeah,
to stay in that house, even though he
mhm,
hated it for like another year. And of course, he was
mhm,
getting things out of it. I get that. But it was also out of loyalty. And he still
mhm,
didn't say anything about Tim till like 50 billion, like a very long time after, and only through extreme pressure from literally everybody to
yeah,
say something. And what
and
do
we're all
you
glad he
think
did,
about his huh?
and we're all glad he did.
Well, I don't agree with it, but what do you think about his like why do you think he spoke up about Tim from a Hufflepuff perspective?
I think he got to the point where he realized that Tim was not the kind of friend to him as he was to Tim, and he was like, "What am I even holding on to this awful stuff for anymore?"
Mhm.
And
I
is
get that.
and so I feel like Hufflepuffs, you can't we make a joke that they're one of the negative traits is a doormat, and we saw how much of a doormat that Adam was
Yeah.
for a couple of years and not releasing this info on Tim. But there's only so far you can push them before they, break.
I think too, he was which by the way, when Tim went into that stream, that was so Gryffindor. That was Gryffindor cringe,
Yeah.
definitely. Because I just as a Slytherin girl, I would not have been in that stream. You would
No, as a
never have
Slytherin,
seen me comment.
you've been wouldn't even acknowledge his existence. Like, I would say an unevolved Slytherin would have done it, somebody who didn't know who was, like, very immature, but runs a business. He's a full-grown adult.
Right. No, I think an unevolved Slytherin or just Slytherin in general would have canceled Adam, but probably would have done it preemptively,
Yeah, maybe.
realistically.
The next one is
Tim is a
Luke.
Gryffindor.
Yeah, Tim is a Gryffindor. Lydia is a Ravenclaw, Adam is a Hufflepuff. Next we're going on to Luke.
Mr. Luke, Mr.
Mhm.
Obnoxious.
Yeah.
Uh, so I'd say he's definitely cannot be a Hufflepuff because he's
No.
very obnoxious.
He's too gung ho. He's too like,
Yeah,
let's end the Federal Reserve now.
yeah,
You know? And so that's him. We can just get right into it. He's a Gryffindor, like plain and
yeah.
simple. He has like an idea of the libertarian utopia,
Cringetarian. He's
vegetarian
very
for sure.
SJW in his libertarianism. So
Yes.
that is a sign that he is a Gryffindor because it's all about
Mhm.
justice. You ever hear him talk? Every single
Mhm.
thing. This is for the justice of the people, blah, blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah, blah. Like they're oppressing you and whatever. He goes on
Yeah.
those tirades literally every single second of every day.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. We're not even
And
gonna
that's
beat around
the
the bush.
thing.
He is Gryffindor.
Even when you're not an SJW as a Gryffindor, you still act like one. Or like
Yeah.
you can't help it. It's funny
Mhm.
though, but
Um, well,
yeah.
next is Ian.
Oh my god. Okay, what do you guys think Ian is? Definitely say it below.
'Cause I know what Ian is.
I think Lisa definitely had to convince me, so you're gonna have to plead your case a little bit, but not too much, but
Mhm.
I think a lot of people will probably think he's one thing.
Oh, he's
But
definitely not a Slytherin.
no,
He's definitely
not a
not a
drop of
Gryffindor.
Slytherin.
Not a Gryffindor.
No, it was definitely between Ravenclaw and Huffle,
Yeah. He comes
and
off as a Hufflepuff because he's such a hippie.
yeah.
And, but he, in my personal opinion, is a Luna Lovegood Ravenclaw. He's
Yeah,
extremely original, extremely creative, and what makes him a Ravenclaw is you have to think about the things that he's done in his life. He helped create Minds,
right.
the website Minds, and the reason why he did that was not for any sort of particular social justice aspect or to gain power and fame or because it was the Hufflepuff hardworking, I'm just gonna like do something, the right thing to do. He did it because he loved the concept of it. He was so
Mhm,
conceptual and the creativity of what could this mean? How is this going
mhm.
to affect humanity? Blah blah blah. He liked it's a very intellectual pursuit, and even though
Yes.
he comes off as kind of not so smart on Tim Cast, he's extremely creative.
Yes, I think too he's very into exploring ideas, extremely so, and you
Mhm,
can see how much he
mhm.
is a part like, he's in such stark contrast to Tim and Luke. It's
Yeah.
just crazy,
Well,
and
that's why they
I
walk all
do
over
agree.
him because, like,
They do.
you have to look at there's another thing too we need to talk about with the houses. So, the people who are gonna get along the best. Gryffindors are always gonna get along best with Hufflepuffs, and they're always gonna get along best with Slytherins. Ravenclaws are always gonna get better best with Hufflepuffs and Slytherins. Slytherins, Ravenclaws, and Gryffindors. Hufflepuffs, Ravenclaws, and Gryffindors. Um, and so but
Mhm,
Hufflepuffs will not get along with Slytherins. Gryffindors will not get along with Ravenclaws as much. It can happen, but yeah.
mhm,
So if you so when Ian says something that's pseudo intellectual and kind of high minded and comes out kind of dumb sometimes, you have to understand he's making connections in his brain to things that we're not even considering. That yeah, they could be dumb once you really analyze them, but he's speaking from a point of creative consciousness and um think is speaking out
mhm.
loud to think. You know, he's it's a
Yes.
very even though he's I don't know if he's a Gemini, but it's a very Gemini aspect, you know.
I think
And
it yeah,
yeah, so
from oh, sorry, what were you gonna say?
and I was just gonna say, and so when you have somebody who's extremely Gryffindor and doesn't have that kind of same creative intellectualism, it comes off as really annoying, and that's why you see Tim shut him down all the time.
Well, I think Gryffindors are very impatient.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, from a Slytherin perspective, I find no offense to anybody, like, I love a lot of Ravenclaws, but I find Ravenclaw to be cringe a lot of the time. Like, it's just there's a quality of cringe that underlies Ravenclaws. And Ian, it's right there. Like, my I think as a Slytherin, I probably judge people by how I feel. And when he talks, I cringe. And
Mhm.
it's like, it's not bad what he's saying. It's actually really nice. That's why I did think he was a Hufflepuff at first, because he's very positive in how he
Mhm.
speaks and just the way that he talks about things. But when you said the Luna Lovegood, and then I watched the show again, I was like, he is definitely. Oh, we need to add Paul Joseph Watson to the
Okay.
list. That's a good
I don't
one.
know I don't know much about him, so you can be the one to determine who
I
he
think
is.
well, do you want me to just say it? Because I think I know.
Okay, no, let's just get when we get to the extra ones. We
Okay.
have to get through the whole list first. Anyways, yeah, so yeah, he's a Luna Lovegood Ravenclaw. Moving
Yeah.
on to John Doyle.
This one's tough. This one's really hard because right off the bat, it's so obvious that he's one of two.
Yeah. He's either
So,
Gryffindor or Slytherin.
yeah, he's definitely not a Ravenclaw at all. That's totally thrown in the trash.
Mhm.
He has like barely any Hufflepuff traits, but there's like it's just really his positive affect that would be Hufflepuffy. Everything
Mhm.
else, not at all. But when
Yeah.
you look at Gryffindor and Slytherin, it's tough.
Mhm.
And I feel like I'm gonna have to definitely leave it to the sorting hat because I don't know. I would say he's definitely one performing as the other. That's what I feel
Yeah.
like.
He's a hat stall for sure. He's
Yeah.
definitely a hat stall. And so we could talk about what makes him and maybe come to a conclusion because for me, even though it's also consider it's also difficult. So I probably if I were a real sorting hat, I would just ask him which one you want to be in.
Mm,
One or the other.
interesting.
Because he's definitely I think what we have to ask ourselves is he's doing this show. Does he actually believe in what he's saying? Does
Right.
he 100% buy into it? Because if he 100% buys into it, I might put him in Gryffindor. Now, if he's being overly performative or he's saying these things because he's trying to get something out of it, then I'd put him in Slytherin.
I
And
think
so,
I just may have figured it out.
okay, so give me your opinion now. I'll see if I agree.
It's very obvious that he had a falling out with Elijah,
Hmm,
and you don't hear anything. So I think he's a Slytherin. Because if
that's
he
a
was
good
a
point.
Gryffindor, he would have gunned after him so fast.
Yeah,
But he's not, and he's
he's
calculated.
calculated. Yeah.
Mhm.
So he's a Slytherin performing as a Gryffindor.
Yes, I would
Mhm.
agree. And I do think it's obvious he cares about fraternity and those kind of things. And he
Yeah.
probably has the Slytherin mindset, which I myself also have,
Mhm.
of I'm not going to attack Elijah because he's on my side in this cultural fight, even if
Exactly.
Elijah really betrayed him or really pissed him off, which I feel like probably he did. But Elijah's burned a lot of bridges with a lot of people. But I think that it's very interesting that you don't hear a damn word from John. And that does betray the snake. So
Yeah.
maybe we would be fighting each other in the houses, John. But
Yeah. Well, there could always be infighting in Slytherin, but at the
mhm,
end of the day, you don't take
definitely.
it outside the fraternity. You fight, you sort your problems, behind closed doors, and then you walk out and you leave your problem out the door. Oh yeah, do remember Gastonism.
Yeah, that's hilarious. So
Mhm,
I definitely think that he is a Slytherin. Just because the Ravenclaw aspect,
mhm,
I can't see him as a Ravenclaw because he's not individualist whatsoever.
mm-mm.
He's very much about
Collectivist.
group identity.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
that's also another point in favor of being Slytherin. He's 'cause I said he
Yes.
cares about the fraternity, um, and it's not that Gryffindors can't care about the fraternity, but their fraternity is more idealistic. Whereas the Slytherin is more practical. It's like this fraternity actually exists. I can see them. They're in the room with me right now.
Yes. Well, I think too, Gryffindor fraternity is very feeling based in the
Mhm,
moment. It's do I like you? If
mhm.
I like you, then you're in my group. That's so Tim. Oh my fucking God.
Yeah.
And if I don't like you, you're out. Where
Exactly,
where's
exactly. Whereas
with
Slytherins are building an
Slytherin,
empire, and they're building a multi-generational empire. So they even if they don't get it now, they're like, "I'm still in doing what I'm doing to make sure that my grandchild has it."
that's for which house?
Slytherin.
Yeah. Slytherin is also, even if I hate your guts, if you're on my side, I'll keep my mouth shut.
Yes,
It's very practical. Like you said, it's shrewd and I'm not going to come after you, even if I hate you, because at the end of the day, you're still fighting for what I'm fighting for. So I'll keep my mouth shut. And that's exactly why
exactly.
he hasn't said anything,
Mhm.
period.
Yes.
Okay.
Hunter Avalon. And I know these are, John Morgan's two favorite people in the world.
Oh God. Hunter Avalon. Oh, well, we know he's not a Hufflepuff at all.
No, he's definitely
0%.
not honest, not loyal,
No.
kind
Not
of a dick.
doing it out of the goodness of his heart, whatever he's
No.
doing.
He is not a Slytherin in my opinion because he lacks cunning.
Oh, yeah.
He
Mm,
tries
yeah.
it, but he's so obvious.
Oh, he's so bad.
Yeah.
But
Um,
you could see, like, even when I debated him, his visceral reaction to me, there was
yeah.
such a hatred. I think
Mhm.
Slytherins, we often will have a respect for each other, even if we don't
Mhm.
like each other. There's always
Yeah.
this respect. He hated me.
He did. He did hate you. Um, so the options are Gryffindor or Ravenclaw. So let's talk about what could be some Gryffindor traits. He's very boisterous. He's very
Showboating.
showboaty, but it's such an effort. It's you can see through it so much. It's kind of gross. Um, that's why, in my opinion, I think he's a Ravenclaw. I think he's an annoying, obnoxious Ravenclaw.
He has the cringe.
He
It
has the
makes he
cringe.
makes me cringe in
It
that
when he
way.
pulls up all his little research articles and then he
Ugh.
misinterprets them and misapplies them
And he's
to
so
yeah.
disloyal.
Mhm.
He has a lot of the negative Ravenclaw traits.
He does. He's a
He's
toxic
not that
Ravenclaw.
smart either.
Because there are Ravenclaws that we love, but he is not one of
Yes.
them.
Yeah, I actually
Mhm.
like Ian, yeah. But yeah, when it comes to gosh, no, he's the worst kind of Ravenclaw, but he would definitely be doing those riddles to get into the house, I guess.
Yeah, and then he would get so mad and be like, "This riddle's stupid," because he didn't figure it out to get in.
Yeah, he's so bad.
Yeah. Yeah,
He's
you're
not
right,
a
Celtic.
pseudo
He's a
Ravenclaw.
pseudo-intellectual Ravenclaw. He's
Yes,
another one of
pseudo-intellectual.
those. Because
Mhm.
there's a few of them. There's a few I feel like a lot of if you're a toxic Ravenclaw, you're a pseudo-intellectual Ravenclaw.
Usually,
Just like
yes.
Lydia. Yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
unfortunately.
And there's another one on this list too. There's another pseudo-intellectual Ravenclaw on here.
Ooh.
Um, well, anyways, now Hunter's been decided as a Ravenclaw. We have Carlin.
Ooh, okay. So Carlin, we know I don't know. Do you
So
think she'd be a hot stall or do you think it'd be pretty clear cut?
well, I'm thinking of her as the person that she describes before she had to go through a lot of confidence
Changes,
building and changes in order to be successful.
especially
And
later in
I do
life.
think John is right on the money, but we're going to go through why that is. A lot of people would consider Carlin either a Gryffindor or a Slytherin,
Mhm.
but and she does have traits from both. She has the activism of a Gryffindor, and she has the cunning and cleverness, like the cunning and calculatedness of a Slytherin. She's definitely ambitious, but she's definitely has the confidence of a Gryffindor. But now, here's the thing about that: these are all traits that she's described in herself that she said that she had to work at and
Develop.
grow and
Mhm.
yes, and develop. They're not the natural ones to her. So think about like what she did. She has 3 degrees. She has a PhD, you know?
Yeah.
She is so interested and curious about the way that people work and how the way that people operate, where she wants to learn,
Mhm.
these different things. Yeah, Carla might describe herself as Slytherin because she has very Slytherin traits now, but I don't think that's what she would have been sorted
What
into.
I will have to
Yeah.
say too is she doesn't have the loyalty of a Slytherin at all. Like,
Mhm.
she changes groups very easily and very quickly, and that's not something Slytherins do. We don't do that very
Yeah, when
easily.
he means like that, he means the fraternity. So, like,
Mhm.
she's definitely very loyal to the people who are, like that are loyal to her, but she doesn't have I would say Slytherins sometimes have a fault of the blind loyalty. That's what I would
We
call it.
go hard. Yeah,
Yeah.
we go very hard, and it's not even like I said, it's not even personal,
Mhm.
but she left the left
Mhm.
really hardcore, then she
Mhm.
left the right really hardcore. She definitely, in my opinion, has the individualism.
Mhm,
She's
yes.
very
She's the
Ravenclaw.
individualism.
Yes,
Yeah.
she's super individualist, and you know, sh she'll go after anything,
Mhm.
if it doesn't agree with her, which is a Ravenclaw trait for sure.
Yeah. So but as I was saying, she's very, very intelligent and she has that where she pursued knowledge because she was super curious about this
Mhm.
thing, and then she developed the Gryffindor and Slytherin traits. So yeah, she might consider
Yeah.
herself a Slytherin now, as Shannon said, because she has a lot of those Slytherin traits. And good for her because it's
Mhm.
good to have traits from all the houses because you can't stay the same
Mhm.
person over time.
I just
Um,
I agree with
yeah,
Celtic too. She
yeah,
does act like a Gryffindor. She is a bit
yeah.
showboaty, but at the end of the day, it's
That's for YouTube.
showboaty, but it's different. It's with the Ravenclaw and Gryffindor can both be showboaty, but
Mhm.
Ravenclaw, they want to prove it to someone.
Yeah.
It's like and they wanna a lot of times they appeal to authority. That's why they're really into, like, universities or, like, if you
Mhm,
think of Lydia, she really
mhm,
wanted to appeal to Tim, right? It's a
mhm.
very or a very
Yeah.
Ravenclaw thing. Gryffindor wants to appeal to themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and so and yeah, so and she did work in
Mhm.
universities for a while. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
she's
mean, she
definitely
was
yeah,
just straight up yeah,
yeah.
pretty much.
And she has a lot of the positive traits of a Ravenclaw as well. She
Mhm.
like I said, she has, like, the wit and such, and that's why she's so funny. Um,
Creativity, she thinks
creativity. Yeah.
differently than a lot of people. She's
Mhm.
able to
Original.
she does have
Yeah.
the originality. She does
Mhm.
have a lot of these traits as well, for sure. Mhm.
Mhm. Yep. Yep, so Carlin is a Ravenclaw. Now let's go on to the nemesis, Carrie Smith.
Ooh, oh my god. Okay, I know this is bad, but right off the bat, I'm like, she's so SJW. I almost feel like she has to be a Gryffindor, but what do you think?
I would say she would be a Gryffindor if she were more interesting. Cause, cause imagine going to a party thrown by Carrie Smith.
Oh, yeah. That's so what
Just
do
how
you think?
depressing would that be? Well, she's not a Hufflepuff because she has 0 loyalty. She's not a Slytherin because she's not nearly as calculated and cunning as she thinks she is.
No.
And John's right on the money again. She is a Ravenclaw. She is a toxic Ravenclaw, and that's
Yeah,
probably why she can't
true.
stand Carlin because she's like, "Dang, Carlin has all these traits that I wish I had as someone who's has a similar personality, like, house type." But
Yeah.
she's
I think they'd be infighting in the house for sure.
Mhm. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
because there's a competitive because it's individualistic. And so if you see
Mhm.
another Ravenclaw as a threat, you're going to do everything you can to, knock them down. Um, whereas you would feel like it'd be more merit-based. Hufflepuff would be more merit-based. Gryffindors are they naturally become hierarchical because they recognize they will just naturally recognize who's better. They don't need to
They're
fight with
very
each other.
Leo-ish. That's a very
Yeah.
Leo-y thing, yeah.
Exactly, and
Mhm.
the third thing is the lion, and so they are very competitive, but they're not gonna compete in that way. They're competitive over dumb things, like the board game or the
Yeah.
Quidditch game, right? They're not like, "I wanna be better than you." They don't care about that. They're gonna be like, "I'm better because I'm the best, and everybody should just see I'm the best." Whereas Ravenclaw is like, "I need to be the best, so I need to destroy you."
We're
So, yeah.
Slytherin, it's we are the best.
Yeah, we are the
Yeah,
best. Yes,
we
exactly.
are. Mhm.
We. We being the
It's
key word.
interesting. Okay, so who's next?
I'm reading this thing real quick. Harry Hufflepuff that wants to be some type of Slytherin Gryffindor combo. No, she's a toxic Ravenclaw all the way.
Yeah.
Toxic.
I
Just
don't
just
even
listen.
think she has any other traits of the
Yeah.
houses.
Just listen to how boring she is. Like when you
Yeah.
just watch her videos, she's like, let's
She's
talk
so
about
niche
intellectual
too.
talking points from 5 years ago as if they're new again.
She's so niche. It's like she's so interested in her little
Yeah.
thingy that no one cares about. That's
Yeah.
very Ravenclaw cringe,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, it's cringe. Um, Deb Philman.
Oh gosh, ooh, I don't know. What do you okay, I have a hard time, but I would
Not a
say
Hufflepuff.
okay. I would say not that, yes. I
Mhm.
I have a really hard time thinking Slytherin because she's not very calculating.
Yeah. She
Um
she has traits from all of those 3 houses,
mhm.
Ravenclaw, Gryffindor, and Slytherin. She definitely has the intellectual pursuits of a Ravenclaw. She is somewhat calculated with Slytherin, but
She's
not really.
ambitious.
She's sorry, what? You said?
I think she is ambitious and in
She's
a
ambitious,
self-serving
yeah,
way, which
but
is
she's not
Slytherin-ish.
she's calculated this does not come natural to her, like, she tries to her manipulation is short term. She's like, it's a one-off exchange of manipulation, which is like, "I will do this for you if you do this for me really quick." That's not
Mm.
calculated. Calculating is like, "Here's the 10 steps I'm going to take in order to get what I want." Yeah, and so this is why I put her as a Gryffindor
I
because
think so.
just listen to her talk. She's loud. That's the defining
Yeah. She
characteristic of
cares
someone
a
who's
lot what
Gryffindor.
other people think
Loud.
too. She
Yes,
cares a lot what other people think,
she does. She really
and
struggles with the haters on the internet.
yeah, that's a good tell.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
definitely.
Whereas Slytherins are gonna be like, "So what? Hate me. I hate you too." Hufflepuff, it's really it's really hard to hate a Hufflepuff, and, Ravenclaws are hateable, but they're everybody knows that they're hateable. It's like because they're so cringe. Whereas
It's more of a
whereas
cringe thing.
whereas she has the obnoxious traits of a Gryffindor. She just does. She's like I said, she's loud, she's
Yeah,
boisterous. She doesn't let anybody else talk.
it's
Yeah,
true. I get
yeah,
you. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, who's next?
Anyways, yeah, Sydney Watson.
Ooh, Sydney. So Sydney, I think is pretty clear cut. I think it's pretty obvious.
I
Um,
think so too.
she's also, we'll say she's definitely not a Gryffindor
No.
because she has been burned and she doesn't say anything about it.
hmm But she's not
Um,
calculated like a Slytherin.
no, she's not a Slytherin. As much as I love her to be, she's not. She
Yeah.
does not have that little bite to her that
hmm
Slytherin
Yeah.
has.
So she's not a
And
Slytherin, she's not a showboaty Gryffindor, definitely not showboaty. The 2 things that she would fall between are Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff. And I think a lot of people would lean Ravenclaw because she's very smart. Clearly, she's very well
mhm,
spoken, but I think she is a Hufflepuff because
she's
she's so
loyal.
altruistic.
She's loyal. I don't see the individualism in her.
Mhm,
She's not just out for herself. She cares about the movement. She cares about
mhm,
other people. She's always trying to be reasonable. Like even when she did that panel, that Vice panel, which was really cringy, by the way.
mhm,
But she was always just coming at them with reason arguments. You can just tell by the way she talks, it's in her affect, and
mhm.
she does care about the well being of people.
Yeah.
It's from a good place. Yeah.
She's not out here to score points.
No, she doesn't
She's
care.
yeah, yeah,
It's about morality for her and
yeah,
reasonability, practicality even.
yeah.
She's a Hufflepuff straight up.
She's honest. She's like the best Hufflepuff on this list in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and she's hardworking
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, and she stuck her toe up a butt.
Scarring.
I
That's like
know. I
I
can't get
can't
over
believe
it.
you said that out loud, but
Well, because she's a Hufflepuff, she was like, something happened, like that.
you can toe up the butt, Sydney. I can't.
Was Celtics excited. Also, Sydney on that panel said at some point she got hungry and she only cared that she was hungry. Well, you know what? That is why the Hufflepuff houses are next to the kitchens.
Exactly.
And they're why they're the head of their house is the professor of herbology. Hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, who's next?
We have Elijah Schaefer.
Ooh, he's tough.
He is tough.
Okay. Well,
And
we
I
know
have a
he's a
very particular reason as to what house he's in.
he's not a Hufflepuff at
No.
all.
Does
Not
not
even a
have the
drop.
honest loyalty at all.
No. I also have a hard time thinking he'd be a Ravenclaw.
He's not a Ravenclaw.
So, it's definitely between Slith and Griff, but what is your reasoning?
So my reasoning comes down to why Sydney left their podcast.
Hmm.
And this is just one of the reasons. And John, you're right again, but shh. But anyways, a lot of people would say he was a Slytherin based on these certain
He has a
aspects.
lot of traits,
Mhm.
I will
Very
say,
ambitious,
definitely. Mhm.
very ambitious, definitely leans into the fraternity things, but he's actually more about himself. He So one of the reasons why Sydney left the podcast was because of the utter disrespect that Elijah was showing her. And one of the ways he would do this is that Sydney's a planner. She would plan things and be like,
Mhm.
"We're talking about this. These are the things I want to talk about," and the thing, and then a breaking news story would come out, and Elijah would pull rank and say, "Well, guess what? We're doing this new thing instead." And he would go on the fly, impulsive, just take over and dominate.
Yes.
Extremely Gryffindor trait of saying,
Yeah.
F all the work that you just did for the last couple of days. We're gonna do the thing I wanna do instead. I don't care if you don't have the spontaneity to do it with me. You sit there, do your thing, I'll take over.
Yeah, he does have a lot of toxic Gryffindor traits for
Yeah,
sure. He's
yeah,
very frat boy, extremely so. He's mega into drinking, for example,
yeah.
and he
I'd rather
yeah.
go to a party that he's throwing.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he's a blast, but
Yeah,
he does have Southern traits. Like, I do
yeah.
think
Slytherin wing Slytherin.
yeah, the house could have if he would have been like, I really want to be a Slytherin, they might have let him in because he is
Mhm.
calculating for sure. He's more calculating than typical Gryffindor for sure. And
He
he
would have been the
has
most fun of the Slytherins for sure.
yeah, he would be. He has traits of
Mhm.
one, but at the end of the day, I do agree, he is more of a Gryffindor because it
Yeah,
is more about him than
yeah,
anybody else for sure.
definitely. And if he were a Slytherin, I feel like he would at least tried to incorporate some of Sydney's stuff into it because he would have been her teammate, therefore in his
Mhm.
fraternity. Um, we have Joe Rogan is next.
Interesting.
Joe Rogan, not a Hufflepuff.
Oh, no way.
No.
I do think he has some Ravenclawish
Yeah, he
traits for
does. He's
sure.
he's definitely between Ravenclaw and Gryffindor. He's not a Slytherin,
Mhm.
not a Hufflepuff. He's definitely very, very brave. Um, he's has a lot of but he lacks, like, the pursuit of glory. Yeah, he did win a
Mhm.
bunch of stuff, and he did, like, try to be he got, like, some medals and stuff for martial arts, and he has, like, the podcast with his name on it, but, like, he doesn't think about the way he runs his podcasts. He doesn't get on the podcast and talk about himself for 4 hours. He lets somebody get
Mm.
on it and talk about themselves for 4 hours, and then he learns from them.
Yeah. That killed the Gryffindor because
Mhm. You don't
Gryffindor
have to
speaks
be
up
smart to
about
be a Ravenclaw, John Morgan. Gilderoy Lockhart was a Ravenclaw.
Lydia is a Ravenclaw.
Gilderoy Lockhart is literally the dumbest person in the entire Harry Potter book series, and he was a Ravenclaw.
Yeah. I think so, just because it really is the pursuit of knowledge for him, I
Yeah,
think.
John, you don't have to have a deep pool of knowledge. You just have to pursue it. And you have to
Yeah.
have the need to pursue it because it's something that you value. It's not doesn't mean you intrinsically have it. It's something that you
You
value. And he
value.
values the pursuit
It's
of
his whole
knowledge.
life's work. It's
Exactly.
everything.
It's his
Mhm.
claim to fame. His
Right.
claim to fame is not, hey, Joe Rogan. Like people, a lot of people don't even know he's a comedian.
Well,
Yeah, he gets on
he
stage.
did Fear Factor, for example, but he
Yeah.
wasn't the one doing the stuff. He was just hosting it,
Yeah.
you know?
Just getting to know people. Yeah.
Like, it's always about the other people, and that
hmm
is typically his style. So I do agree with you because it's not
Yeah.
about him. And with Gryffindors, it is always about them,
Yeah.
to a certain extent. It can never just like I mean, literally, Timcast, that's the name of the show. And
Yeah.
Tim was even upset that Adam had Adamcast. He's like, you can't, it's too similar to mine.
Yeah. Well, that they call it the Joe Rogan experience. But here's another thing that makes him not a Gryffindor. When he got called out by Tim Pool over hosting, what was his name? The head of Twitter, Jack, Twitter.
Mm,
He immediately self-corrected himself, had Tim come on, and then coordinate a podcast so he could actually relearn what it was because it was more important to him to know the truth than it
mhm,
was to be right. Or because if he was needed to be right, he would have competed with Tim. Tim would
right.
never have done that.
Mhm. Oh, no way. Never on
No.
God's green earth. I
Yeah.
do think that I think Joe is he is an evolved Ravenclaw for sure. He's
Yeah.
definitely one of the higher versions of it, and I
Mhm.
think it's interesting because it does have his name in it, but it's the Joe Rogan experience. It's about
Mhm.
the experience, it's not about him.
Yeah.
Whereas Timcast, it's about Tim. It's
Yeah.
all about him.
But Joe Rogan still is very individualistic. That's why his name is
Mhm.
on it, but it's not like I said, it's not he won't he doesn't have blind loyalty. He even if people he's friends with, he will point out their faults.
Yeah,
So
I
he
think
does so
he
he
has a
yeah.
lot of Gryffindor traits,
Mhm.
but he's not I agree that he isn't because
Yeah.
it isn't about him. It never
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. And that's the thing he enjoys doing most is those podcasts.
Yeah,
And yeah.
interesting.
um Next one is Steven Crowder. I will add Jimmy Dore to the list, but I don't know who that is.
I don't know either. Ah, I'm
So someone
sorry,
else can
Shannon.
decide that. Um, anyways, next is Steven Crowder. This one is so obvious. I don't even
Yeah,
know if we should discuss
I don't
anything
think
else.
we can.
Everybody, tell us what Steven Crowder is. If you get it wrong, I'm gonna look at you sideways.
Yeah, it's 100% this for
I'll give you
sure.
a
I
hint.
mean
I'll give you a hint. He's very, very loud.
he's about as this as I am Slytherin. Like, it's just 100%, yeah. I mean,
Yes.
100%.
He is the most Griffiny Gryffindor in
Yeah,
existence. He is
100%.
he is loud, he is impulsive, he is on the fly, um he has very
100
much he's the right-wing SJW-ishness where he's like, "This is the right thing to do. I'm going to burn down the establishment." Even if it's his own establishment.
Yes, he's also very Trumpy,
Yeah.
like, which Trump is Mr. King Gryffindor.
Yeah, yeah, Trump is definitely Gryffindor.
Yeah.
Every leftist Gryffindor out there is like,
No!
"No!"
They're so
Like,
mad.
sorry.
They're like, "You
But he
hate
is.
us, Slytherin." No.
Yeah,
Anyways,
yeah,
um,
Steven Crowder definitely I don't even know if we need to talk about it, like,
he
he's a Gryffindor. This
he's
is what he
100%. He doesn't have any traits of anything else.
No, he doesn't. He really, really
No,
doesn't.
he
I mean,
doesn't.
he's smart, I guess, which is Ravenclaw, but, whatever, Hermione was in Gryffindor. He can
Yeah,
be smart,
no, he's not Ravenclaw at all. He's literally
yeah,
nothing else, like, that's all.
yeah,
Like, he is 100% a Gryffindor.
mhm,
It's all glory all the time. He's
mhm,
very loud, very frat
yeah.
boy,
I mean, he's
extremely, like
hardworking like a Hufflepuff, but,
yeah,
like, you feel like everybody
yeah,
has one trait from either
yeah,
house,
of course,
yeah.
but it's like, he is so
Showboaty,
obvious. Yeah.
showboaty. Next one is Ben Shapiro. Benny Shapiro.
I think we
Um,
already know.
he's another one who's, like, very the epitome of his house.
The cringe is there. As a Slytherin, I
Yeah.
feel the cringe instantaneously, and that tells me he is Ravenclaw.
He's like as much as Steven Crowder is Gryffindor, Ben Shapiro is a Ravenclaw.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. And he is
He's
so individualist. He only cares about, like, his pursuit and nothing else. That is
yes.
very clear, and that is a huge Slytherin, criticism I have of him is how dare he?
Yeah.
It's all about him. It's like,
Yes.
dude, there's more important things than you.
Yes.
Even more than a Gryffindor, gosh,
Mhm. And,
crazy.
yeah, so we don't really talk about him. Definitely everyone knows how smart he was. He went to college
Yeah,
when he was a teenager. He,
super
like
smart.
he was, like, in his early 20s when he got his law degree, and he's look at him now, he's a millionaire, right? So he's definitely the intelligent side of the
Yes.
Ravenclaw spectrum, but still has some of the negative Ravenclaw traits where let's go back to them really quick to make sure I got this right. Um, let's see here. Arrogant for sure, definitely proud, snobby, intellectually
100%.
isolated, pedantic, wants to be creative and original, but often is not. I think he has
Yeah.
all those. He has
I
all
think
those.
he's very cringe,
Mhm.
very out for himself, his own pursuits. He doesn't even care about the movement or anything. He doesn't care about anything but him,
Yeah,
for the most part, and just knowledge. Again, I do think he cares about the knowledge, but it's
yeah.
like, yeah, he could Shannon said they could be the house professors. Yeah, he could be a house professor of
Well, I think
Ravenclaw.
everybody who was considered at a time as part of the intellectual dark web is a Ravenclaw. Every
Yeah,
single person in that.
probably.
So, like, Jordan Peterson, Ben
Yes.
Shapiro, Joe
Yes.
Rogan, and the Weinstein brothers, they're all Ravenclaws.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I wouldn't want Ben Shapiro as a Ravenclaw professor either, Celtic. I think that would be the worst.
It would be scarring,
I would
but
that's I think why the house would put me in Gryffindor, because if I saw all the professors, I would be like, I would so much rather hang out with Steven Crowder than than Ben Shapiro. Not that I really wanna hang out with either of them, but if I had to pick one over the other.
oh, yeah. Oh, gosh. Whew. Okay, so who's next?
Jeremy Boring, who is the CEO of the Daily Wire. The only reason why I know who he is because of his mega cringe response video to Steven Crowder. He's, now he's another one where he's definitely not a Gryffindor, definitely not a Hufflepuff. It comes between Ravenclaw and Slytherin. He has the cringe of a Ravenclaw for sure. Why the hell did he respond to that video? But here's the thing. A Ravenclaw would never have sent him Steven Crowder a contract like that because it how do I put this? I don't think a Ravenclaw can be a CEO of a company like that. I don't know how to put this. I can't. So like,
Um,
there is a manipulation and power aspect to this that I think puts him into the Slytherin category. What does not put him in Slytherin category though is the lack of fraternity. He's definitely a hat stall, but it's hard to. It's really really hard. I think he's a toxic Slytherin. I don't think he's a good Slytherin.
I think for me, he doesn't make me cringe. So
Mhm.
he is one of my own.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, the Daily Wire in general is
Mhm.
very Slytherin oriented. It's a very
Mhm.
Slytherin-y organization. I think a lot of people that are on it are
Mhm.
probably Slytherin,
Yeah.
with the exception of Ben, obviously. But I think that it's a very defensive contract, very
Yeah.
self-preserving. That's how
Exactly.
I see it. Other
Yeah. That's
people
what.
see it as offensive even. Like, I think Crowder being 150,000,000,000% Gryffindor, he
Mhm.
found it personally
Yeah.
offensive.
Well, that's why it's hard to
Mhm.
understand this because you're like, well, if he's a Slytherin and he believed about fraternity, why wasn't he extending the same fraternity to Steven Crowder? Well, because Steven Crowder wasn't his fraternity. Daily Wire is his fraternity.
Mhm.
So he doesn't care about giving Steven Crowder something like that. So it's fairly confusing in that
Steven Crowder
aspect.
was still in the out group, not in the
Exactly.
in group. He could be
Exactly.
have become a part of the in group,
Mhm.
but under
But he would
certain
have to
conditions.
he would have to show his cunning, ambitiousness, resourcefulness, and those aspects to join the in group. It's basically it's like a house test to get into the Daily Wire. It's like, can you be
That makes
Slytherin enough to
sense.
get in?
'Cause
Yes,
you have to make the contract work for you, and
exactly.
if you can negotiate it enough and you're interested in joining enough, then you will, and that's why
Mhm,
a lot of people say that the Daily Wire people, they're all brainwashed or whatever, but I honestly believe that they're pretty much all Slytherins and they have
mhm.
the same values, and that's why they're in the company, and
Yeah, a
so
lot of
they're
them are
not
definitely Slytherins.
necessarily parroting the same things because they were told to, it's because they all believe them.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
definitely someone like Ben Shapiro can be in that Daily Wire and that, like, little in group because Ravenclaws can just kinda fit in with Slytherins very easily. They
Yeah.
can let someone else be ambitious for them as long as the Ravenclaw is making the Slytherin money and making them more powerful. They don't really care. But yeah, but that's another reason too, if you wanna talk about the it's interesting because he did not consider Steven Crowder fraternity, but as soon as Steven Crowder stabbed him in the back, so to speak, it was all about my friend betrayed me.
I think that that situation, he was it wasn't calculating. It was
Yeah.
like, I think that he was shocked.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of it from a Slytherin perspective is it
Mhm.
would be like when I was deeply closeted, it'd be like if
Mhm.
somebody outed me. And you're like, it's such a fucking, like, core shocking thing that he was very triggered, and that's why he
Yeah.
did that, and it was very cringe, and as
Yeah.
a fellow Southern, I think it was horrible that he made that
Well,
video.
yeah, now yeah, definitely, and I'll explain, a little bit more about that too. So, he, like I said, it was not calculated, which would have been the Slytherin trait, but it was self-preservation, and because we talked
It
about how
was.
Tim Pool likely did not lose money over the whole Adam thing. Nobody really cared. Everybody kinda suspected
No.
that's what it was anyways. And also it wasn't like Tim was married to anyone else. Lydia was married, but Tim wasn't married. Whereas when it
Right.
comes to the whole Daily Wire thing, people were definitely unsubscribing
Yeah.
like crazy. They were losing money. Self-preservation kicked in, and
Yeah.
he did the cringy
It's
thing to
tough.
try and preserve himself and just made it worse.
It's very tough. That is definitely one of the cruxes of being a Slytherin is when calculation and self-preservation, when they do not coincide together. And I
Mhm.
think at the end of the day, the self-preservation in an unevolved Slytherin, the self-preservation will take precedent. In an
Yes.
evolved Slytherin, the calculation will, because the
Yes.
calculation is the smarter decision. But when you
Yes.
feel threatened, it's really hard. And so I do
Mhm.
think that that's exactly what it was. Yeah. And he
Yes.
was triggered. It was not like, for the record, when Tim did his stream about Adam, that wasn't calculated either. That was
No.
totally, he was triggered. But
Yeah. But it was also, like, you could tell he was emotionally triggered, and it was like,
oh, yeah.
and he was trying to he was it was weird. The whole the both of them were like, we should just, like, study them in, like, a
Yeah, the
university,
triggerment
like, to
was
compare the
bad,
2.
but with Tim, it was totally personal. With
Yeah.
Jeremy, it was financial,
It was
which is
financial, and he was pretending it was personal.
yes, and
That
he was
was what was wrong.
pissed. I bet you he
Yeah.
was so angry at him,
Yeah.
but he acted like he was sad and betrayed, which is cringe, Jeremy.
Mhm.
No, you would have been
And
punished
I
in the
totally agreed, Shannon, because I didn't really I was like,
yeah,
here's the thing. When Steven Crowder came out with this thing, I think everybody pretty much figured it was Daily Wire. There was some doubt there, but people didn't really care as much, and it
yeah.
was like but there were a lot of people who were unsubscribing because they were like, "Oh, this is BS, and I didn't like Daily Wire anyways, and they're not giving me what I want, so I'm just gonna unsubscribe. This is the last straw." And then he came out and made that rant, and he made it worse because now people are like, "Oh, you're trying to emotionally manipulate me? That's weird." And, like, I didn't really care until that, and then I was like, "Geez, now I hate you."
Well, I know, and that's the thing. That's the killer of it because I think that there is an aspect of Slytherin that Lisa talks about a lot in private, and that is that it's the control. A
Mhm.
lot of Slytherins we're controlling.
Yeah,
And so when something or someone is out of control, it's very scary to us. And I
yeah,
think he was trying to regain control over Crowder, and it did not work at all. But I think I don't know. I think the best decision would have been to say nothing
yeah,
for sure, or at the very least, they could have just demonized Crowder in general, maybe
mhm,
months later if you wanted to get back at him. But that
yeah.
would have been a more calculated move, and it would have been better.
Yeah, so he was like he has that's the thing too, it's like, he's a Slytherin, but he made a lot of non-Slytherin mistakes, but the reason why he made those non-Slytherin mistakes is because of his other
For
Slytherin traits.
for Slytherin reasons,
Yeah,
yeah.
he out-Slytherin himself, is
That's
basically what we're
bad.
saying.
Very good
Um,
example not to follow.
yeah, the next one is Candace Owens. Very easy as well.
Yeah. Um,
Um,
she does have some Gryffindor
she
traits,
does. She's very much about
but
the Candace Owens show.
But I think at the end of the day, she shares the qualities of Slytherin because
Mhm.
she cares a lot about fraternity,
Yeah,
and she also is very much about the movement.
yeah,
Everything is about the movement for her.
mhm.
That is a Slytherin trait. She does
And
have
even if
Gryffindor qualities though, yeah.
she does. The things that she does the fraternity who whatever fraternity she's aligned with at the moment is her fraternity for sure. She has no
But the
problem leaving
overall
that fraternity
movement,
behind.
the
Yeah.
conservative movement is her fraternity, and she's
Yeah.
very against the left because she
But
used to be. Mhm.
yeah, but she will also leave that behind in a heartbeat though if it suited her, which is more Gryffindor. But at the same time, she's how do I put this? She is far too calculated and self-preserving. She has all those other traits that make up for her shaky fraternity.
I could see that. I think
Yeah.
too, I do think that she has loyalty, but it's
Mhm.
probably to, people she works with, like
Mhm.
her
Her
crew
fraternity's
or
very
something.
small. It's Daily
It's
Wire, that's it.
smaller. I think she
Sh
cares
Yeah.
about the Daily Wire too. Like, she
Mhm.
definitely gunned for them when she
Yeah.
went on Tim Cass show. That was a Slytherin move for
Mhm.
sure, because
Yeah.
she took a lot of heat for that,
Yeah,
and
she's
we will take
shrewd,
the heat. Mhm.
resourceful, haughty, selfish,
She doesn't care
ov
about what other people
yeah,
think of her either.
exactly. Yeah. Now we're gonna go on to the chat recommendations. Jeffree Star. I don't know a lot about him,
Jeffree
but
Star, I think it's
my
obvious.
my initial impression is Slytherin.
Yeah, well, the thing is, though, I really hate him, but, I mean, that's just a personal thing.
I hate
I
him
would
too.
say I think that
He doesn't
he's
have
probably
fraternity anymore, but he's extremely ambitious.
he doesn't have
So
fraternity,
ambitious.
though. I think that's the thing
Yeah.
that kills it for me
But here's the
because
thing, neither did Voldemort. Voldemort talked about it a lot, but he
oh,
wasn't. And I
yeah,
feel like when you get to a really toxic place as a Slytherin, you
yeah,
use those
you
words of
lose it.
community and movement and, "Hey, we're friends," but you don't because you know what you're supposed to say, but you don't actually do it.
Because
But
he
he's
sold out
so
Shane Dawson
ambitious.
so fast, which
Yeah,
Shane Dawson is definitely a Slytherin as
yeah,
well.
yeah, definitely.
Uh,
But he's like he is so ambitious and so calculated that it's like those things dominate his personality.
he's very calculated.
Mhm.
Jeffree Star is extremely calculating, and he makes a lot of money, and he's very good at what he does in
Mhm.
terms
Yeah.
of getting power. I think you
Yeah.
could never put him in anything else because
Yeah.
power
And
is
yeah,
such a huge part of his life.
exactly. And the control he tries to exert over
Oh, yeah.
others. Yeah. So
I
even
hate
if he's
him.
the most disloyal, he's a Voldemort Slytherin is what he is.
Yeah, he's Voldemort.
He's Voldemort.
I can't stand him. I think I don't
Yeah.
like him because I know he's a bad one,
Yeah.
and he's not loyal. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
killer.
Definitely.
I
Well,
hate
that's why
Mhm.
Voldemort lost in the end is because, like I said, the Malfoys, they realized, "Oh, this guy's not a real one." And they betrayed Voldemort because 'cause they're like, "You don't really actually care what you
Yeah,
think you care about."
I agree.
Um, yeah, so anyways, yeah, Shannon, he's a YouTube influencer who's, like, also a makeup dude.
He's beauty.
Yeah,
He's
beauty
toxic,
YouTuber.
very
Yeah,
toxic.
so toxic, yeah. That's all I know about him. And apparently he, like, went away for a while, and now he's back on the scene, and
He doesn't care
that's
what
it.
people think about him at
No,
all.
no. Um,
He is Ravenclaw-ish for sure. He has
mhm,
traits, but overall, his obsession with power, he has to be a Slytherin.
yeah,
And Shane Dawson is a Slytherin. They were best friends, super close,
yeah,
and then of course he threw Shane under the bus, which is really awful. So,
mhm.
damn.
Oh, there's one I forgot to write down, but Blair White.
Blair White, I think she's probably a Slytherin.
Yeah,
Oh,
maybe. I don't know. She does not seem like a Ravenclaw to me. She doesn't seem like a
she has
Hufflepuff.
er, no, I think she's a Slytherin.
Yeah, she's not fun enough to be a Gryffindor. I think she's just like kind of like a yeah, I think she's a Slytherin. I think she's like, these are my people. I'm cool here.
I know my own. She's a
Yeah.
Slytherin.
Yeah. I don't think she's like a terrible Slytherin though. She's just kind of like
No,
a
I
in the
mean,
corner Slytherin.
she's typical Slytherin, like,
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, she cares about the issues, and she
Mhm.
usually will not attack people
Mhm.
unless if she feels they're a threat to the movement, which again, you have to
Mhm.
realize as a Slytherin, the movement, the group fraternity, that's everything, so if you're against it, we hate you,
Yeah.
period. But when it comes to that, I think she has those qualities, but she
Mhm.
also keeps her mouth shut about a lot of people. She
Yeah.
even had tea like on Steven Crowder, but she kept her mouth shut for the most part. She did
Yeah.
not bash him. And I think that she's also been betrayed a lot and she has kept
Mhm.
quiet.
Yeah.
That's a
For
Slytherin
yeah.
thing.
Exactly. Although I bet I know what that tea is. I bet Steven Crowder is my personal opinion. I think he is likely a drug addict. I think he's on methamphetamines, not meth per se, but probably
Oh,
a stimulant, might likely Adderall, probably testosterone,
yeah.
and um, and I think she knows that he's on Adderall at the very least, and that's why he's like, like that, and I think I don't think he cares about LGBTQ issues as much as he says he does. I think
Yeah.
he says that as conservative talking points, but he's like cool with it. He doesn't really care. He just talks about it for the show.
Yeah, it's to be liked by his audience.
Yeah,
Definitely. And
definitely.
she kinda called him out on that
Yeah,
subtly at the
yeah,
time, but I think that it's she definitely is into her self-preservation. I definitely see that as a value in her,
yeah.
100%.
And by the way, I say those criticisms of Steven Crowder at the same time I agree with him on the whole Dayware thing.
That's
So I
fine.
can still criticize him, but
Right.
agree.
Yeah, I mean,
Anyway,
I don't hate him or anything, I just disagree with that what he
yeah.
did, but
Um,
mhm.
yeah, for sure. And Paul Joseph Watson, all I know about him, literally the first time I ever heard of him, I think, is when Lauren Southern came out about that whole thing.
Okay, Paul Joseph Watson, I think he is, um first of all, I think he's hot, and I'm just kidding. I actually do, but secondly, I will say that he is probably a Slytherin
Yeah,
because he cares so much about fraternity and these kind of things, and then he is very cunning, and I
yeah,
think he's also I think, Lauren Southern's probably a Ravenclaw.
Yeah, Ravenclaw or Hufflepuff, one or the other.
Mhm. She could
She
be a
yeah,
Huffle,
yeah.
I think, but I think she mm, I don't know, she's very brave. I
She
don't
is.
know.
She could be Gryffindor. It's
She's
just
a
I
tough
don't know her
one.
enough about her.
She's tough. But
Yeah.
I would s she could even be Slytherin, honestly, because she kept all that shit quiet about Milo. She might be a
Mhm.
Slytherin. Gosh,
Yeah,
that's
that's
Slytherin
true.
on Slytherin violence,
But she make
when
her
it
Hufflepuff,
comes
could have just been very, very loyal, and I think that's one of the reasons why she had to leave, not because we know it's because of the whole visa thing
mm,
in Australia, but she was probably I think she was also just heartbroken and crushed because she was a true believer,
she
and then
could
she
be a
realized everybody else
Hufflepuff,
was fake.
yeah.
So I think, yeah, Hufflepuff. I think Eileen Hufflepuff.
I see the Slytherin in her just 'cause
Mhm.
I see the loyalty, but loyalty
Yeah,
is they're the most of all yeah,
yeah.
she was a
Hufflepuff,
Huffle.
yeah.
But anyway, she didn't like
Mhm.
the way that, Paul tried to hit on her or whatever, and
You
Paul,
tried to
I think
manipulate her into sleeping with him.
yeah, Paul, I think, is a Slytherin. I think he's extremely into fraternity. He's extremely into cultural. He's always talking about the cultural values. I think he's controlling. He has issues with, he's very into the money aspect. He's has no issue being unpopular whatsoever. He
Mhm.
says the hottest take all the time. I think he's definitely a Slytherin.
Yeah.
I really do.
What about the other person featured in her exposé, Milo?
Milo. Milo, he is definitely somewhere between a Ravenclaw and a Gryffindor. He's one of those.
Definitely not a Ravenclaw. I would go between Slytherin and Gryffindor. I just lean Gryffindor because he's,
It's
very
all about
out
the
for himself.
glory.
He's so out for
Yeah,
himself, he wants to destroy the right now because he feels like they betrayed him. So he might have been more Slytherin back in the day, but then again, to look at it, all the things that he did where he's so
he went after
showboaty.
Lauren Southern. Like,
He's so showboaty.
I think you can tell a Gryffindor because they go after people,
Yeah.
like, instantly, it's like a instantaneous thing. I don't think any other house will do that. Like, Adam makes the video, Tim is in the stream, Tim
Mhm.
makes the stream the next day. That doesn't happen with any other one because
Mhm.
every other one, a Ravenclaw will calculate a bit.
Mhm.
A Slytherin is definitely calculating, and a Hufflepuff, they're loyal, they won't say
Yeah.
anything
Well, there
forever.
are like I said, there are spontaneous Slytherins that do that, like Candace Owens will do that, for
Well, it's a
sure. Candace Owens
toxic
insane.
I know,
Yeah,
but
she's
it's not a
toxic.
good moment.
Yeah, but it's
It's an
not yeah,
uninvolved Slytherin.
yeah, he's definitely uninvolved. I think Milo is definitely Gryffindor. He's the worst of the Gryffindor. He has all
Yeah,
the
he
worst
has
traits.
really toxic Gryffindor traits,
So toxic.
100%.
I have no
Um,
idea who Jimmy Dore is. He's on the list. I was hoping you knew, but I don't
I
know
don't
who
know
he is.
him, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Next we have Joshua the Psychic. Joshua the Psychic is I think he's not a Slytherin, he's not a Gryffindor. He's between Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw. He is like I lean I think he thinks he's a Ravenclaw, but and if he
But
was, he's going
not
to love good Ravenclaw, but I think he's just a Hufflepuff. He likes routine. He's like so
yeah,
routine
he's
oriented.
so
And
homey.
yeah, he's definitely a Hufflepuff. If he were, he would not be as routine oriented. Like you can be very strict and rigid as a Ravenclaw for sure, but then you also have to have the flexibility of creativity. Whereas Joshua is like he's like he wants to do the same exact thing every single day. That's what we know about him.
Right, I agree. What do
Yeah,
you
yeah.
think?
John says that. Yeah, John. I agree. He has a lot of emotional intelligence. That would make him more
Yeah,
definitely more Hufflepuff rather than Ravenclaw.
I agree.
Yeah.
He's very loyal, I think. I think
Mhm.
he's very loyal.
Yeah.
He's been very loyal to Carlin through everything. That's
Yeah.
pretty
Very
Hufflepuffy.
loyal. Yeah, very loyal. Okay. I don't know who Jennifer Gerard is.
Who?
Jennifer Gerard.
Oh gosh, I don't know. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Biden is a Slytherin.
He used to be when he had a brain, but
Yeah.
now he's nothing. He doesn't exist
Trump.
anymore, but
Trump is a Gryffindor. And like I said, we're not talking about this in terms of Gryffindor good or Slytherin bad. Not
mhm.
at all. We're just talking about their
Biden was
traits.
a Slytherin when he was alive.
Yeah.
Uh, but that being said, he is at this point, because he's dead inside, he is a
Mhm.
super toxic Slytherin, and
Yeah.
he does react, and I
Mhm.
think only a Slytherin could have done that red light speech
Yeah.
about the MAGA people. Remember when he
Yeah.
did that for the
No,
midterm?
not really, but, like, he's always
Oh,
been
okay.
Biden does have a lot of Gryffindor traits, he's definitely very showboaty, but he's just so
He's so
calculated.
calculated.
Yeah, it's different. Like Filch. Filch is like the dude who, like the janitor of Hogwarts. Um, anyways, Bill Clinton would be a Gryffindor for sure. Barack Obama is a Slytherin who pretends to be a
Mhm.
Ravenclaw.
Yeah.
Um, let's
I
see.
hate a lot of my own. I do.
Yeah,
Uh,
the Bushes, both of the let's see, Bush Jr. in my opinion is a Gryffindor for sure.
well, 'cause he was
He's
like,
just
"I'm
not
so
very bright.
cool, like, you can have
Yeah,
a beer with me," right?
exactly. But his dad, in my opinion, is a Slytherin. Senior is a
I
Slytherin
agree,
who
'cause he
pretends to
was
be Ravenclaw.
saying
All
mhm.
the Slytherins who are like okay, all the Slytherins presidents are Slytherins who pretend to be something else. Like, Joe Biden's definitely Slytherin pretends to be Gryffindor. Obama's Slytherin pretends to be Ravenclaw.
Ravenclaw.
George Bush Senior is Slytherin pretends to be Ravenclaw. And all the Gryffindor presidents are like, "Yeah, I'm just a Gryffindor. I just
Yeah.
this is the best to be, right?"
Trump is 100% Gryffindor, Bush was a he's a Gryffindor
Yeah.
too, but Bush is toxic.
Mhm.
Has toxic traits, but I think you can tell when somebody's really the frat boy, you know?
Yeah. Reagan was a Gryffindor for
Yeah,
sure because
yeah,
he was an actor. He was on screen, "Look at me," you know?
yeah, 100%. I
Yeah.
mean, there's been a lot of there's some hits and misses with
Yeah.
Gryffindor presidents. There's a lot of
Mhm.
Gryffindor presidents. I'm sure a lot of them have been
Yeah,
a Gryffindor.
definitely. I would say, Jimmy Carter is, like, right dead
Ooh,
line between a Gryffindor and a Ravenclaw. I don't think he's smart at all, but I mean, he was a nuclear engineer, but I don't think he was that
he's probably
intellectually smart.
Ravenclaw then.
Yeah, but he's one of the weird ones where, like, I said once in one of my own videos that every president was either a Gryffindor or a Slytherin, but there are, like, exceptions, and you could tell if they're an exception because they're ineffective.
They're weird.
Yeah, they're,
Yeah.
like, weird presidencies. So he could definitely be just a Ravenclaw, and he was in his lane, but he had Gryffindor traits that, like, brought him over.
When I think too, Slytherin presidents, they're always trying, and Slytherins in general, we're usually trying to dismantle the system. We're always
Yeah.
trying to break down what's there and replace it with what we want.
Mhm.
And Obama did that to a T. Oh my
Yeah.
fucking god, the damage
Yeah.
he did. Whoa. You
Yeah.
know, Bush Senior, holy shit, the shit he did to this country.
My gosh, yeah. Seriously, who
But
else?
by the
Okay,
same
yes.
token,
Mhm.
someone like Abraham Lincoln was probably a Slytherin, you know? So
It's possible. I would
because
have to
he
think I would really have to think about that. He's definitely not a Gryffindor, but
and maybe
he could
even
have been a
George
Ravenclaw.
Washington, because George Washington, he they went and they killed everybody on Christmas. I think he's a Slytherin.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I
So
think
there are some good ones, but yeah, there's a lot of really
no,
bad
I
ones.
personally think that George Washington is a Gryffindor because he never wanted power.
Oh,
He never pursued power.
interesting.
He had to be convinced to be president, and he had to
You
be, like,
think?
hardcore convinced, and they wanted to make him king at one point, and he was like, "I don't wanna be king."
Oh, okay. You're right, a Slytherin would have been like, "Okay."
Yeah, he was definitely Gryffindor because he had the bravery down pat, but he definitely had a lot of Hufflepuff traits to him. Theodore Roosevelt is, yeah, I agree with both of you. He's a Gryffindor with some Slytherin
Yeah.
traits, but he's definitely
I
hardcore
do think
he's a
Lincoln
mega Chad Gryffindor.
I guess. I do think Lincoln is a Slytherin though, because he would not allow the South to leave. That's a very,
Yeah, it's a very
Slytherin.
controlling thing.
It's that
"We
control
will
factor.
preserve the fraternity."
And he was hugely
Yeah,
instrumental, and he did make some positive change, some negative change, but he completely changed everything, you know? I mean,
yeah.
we are not even the same. You can see the Slytherin ones, they really change everything. Even Joe Biden, look at how much he's destroying. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, so, yeah, but Lincoln is I think he's either a Slytherin with the he's like
But
a
they killed
50-50.
him.
He's a hat stall. He for sure, he's a hat stall. I think he's
Mhm,
50-50. He might be 51% Slytherin and 49% Ravenclaw or 51% Ravenclaw and 49% Slytherin,
mhm.
but he's like he's
He's definitely
between
in
that.
between, but I think
Mhm.
becoming president, and I
Yeah,
think the amount of impact he had, I think he is a Slytherin, and I
yeah,
think also too, like, just he just the fact I feel like a Ravenclaw would have been like, "Fine, South, go off then.
mhm.
Bye,"
Yeah,
you know? Whereas a Slytherin is like, "You ain't going nowhere.
yeah,
Like, we're gonna take you out," you know, like, "We're staying together
yeah,
because we
definitely.
need to stick together against the rest of the world." That's a
Mhm.
Slytherin value.
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, John Adams, our second president, would be in Gryffindor. Thomas Jefferson, definitely hardcore Slytherin.
He's
Um,
shady.
yeah. And presidents 4 through, like, 35, I don't even really care about. You know, they were just there.
I mean, we got some crazy ones. I think, I wonder what Woodrow Wilson was, but Eisenhower was probably a Gryffindor. I think a lot of the good conservative ones were
Yeah.
Gryffindors for sure.
It just depends. It just depends. There, I mean, because Gryffindors could totally be Slytherins. I mean, sorry, Republicans totally be Slytherins too,
Oh, of
like
course.
George Bush Senior. But I would not consider him a good Republican president at all.
No.
Celtic. Ask yourself, how loud is he? If your answer is the loudest, he is in Gryffindor.
Yeah, he's really loud.
It's a really good metric because it's like
It's
if you're
kind of
like,
like with Ravenclaw, like, is the cringe there? Is that Ravenclaw cringe underlaying them? If it is
Mhm.
yes, then you got it. Just think of Ian. You think of
Oh my god,
Ian, you think of the cringe, you're like, "Okay, yeah, definitely."
yeah, definitely. Um, yes. And so we have that, and now we're gonna go into our special little celebrity section. We're gonna go over a few celebrities who we'd want to sort.
He probably was, John. I agree with you. And he definitely changed the whole fucking country
Yeah.
drastically.
Theodore Roosevelt. Okay, no, 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 no. I think
Woodrow.
I got that mixed up. Theodore Roosevelt was a Slytherin. I was thinking you were talking about the other Roosevelt. Sorry, I got
Oh,
that mixed up. I want to do a retroactive here. There's Teddy. Wait, no, sorry. No, no, no. No, Theodore Roosevelt. No, who was the other one? Franklin. No, my God, no.
Frank
I'm getting myself
FDR
mixed
was
up.
horrible.
FDR
Oh
was a
my god.
Slytherin. Theodore
Yes.
was a Gryffindor. So I was right the first time. I got it mixed up for a second. Sorry, my brain was
FDR is
like,
like the worst, most evil Slytherin president ever.
yeah. He would have.
Horrible.
If you had asked FDR, "Do you want to be king?" He would have been, "Hell yeah."
Yep. He wouldn't leave. Shit, he wouldn't leave.
Even when he was
Yeah,
in a
no,
coma,
he was
last year of his presidency, he didn't want to leave.
yeah.
Anyway, on to the celebrity thing.
Okay,
Sorry. Sorry.
celebrities.
Thank you for correcting me. Um, Taylor Swift,
So
the
we've
Swift.
already discussed it, but I like I said, we all want her to be our house, but
She
sh
she says that she is a Gryffindor.
she is
She's
so
not a
full of it.
Gryffindor.
Liar. She is
If
not
sh
brave.
and here's the metric. If she were a Gryffindor, she would never have complained about being silenced because there would have been nothing in the world that would have silenced her. And if she were a Gryffindor, she would have released the song, "You Need to Calm Down" in 2012 when it was controversial, at the very
Yeah.
least in 2014, um, when people were still getting used to it and, cake people weren't baking cakes for gay couples. Okay? Back when it was actually something where you could take a side on. The side doesn't exist anymore, and she
Yeah.
took a stand.
Well, and the
It's
thing
a
too,
safe
she's
position.
she's not a Gryffindor because she's not brave. She's never on the forefront of anything. She's never
Yeah.
going to go be a part of a riot. That would never happen. She would never do
Yeah.
anything. When COVID happened, she stayed home and stayed safe. That
Yeah.
tells you she is not a Gryffindor, period.
Yeah, and she'll talk about how she's like, "I wanna be on the right side of history," or it's
Ugh.
like, "Yeah, but you only come out on what side you're on when it's safe to do so."
Yes. And I think when you think of Taylor Swift, I know how you guys feel. We all feel the cringe. It's
Yeah,
there. We literally call it Taylor cringe. It's very obvious. It took me a bit because
yeah,
she's very performative. So I
she
agree with Lisa. She wants to be every other house.
yeah.
She
She
tries to
wants to
act
be a
like, oh,
Gryffindor for the honor and the glory and the coolness. She wants to be a Hufflepuff because she bakes cookies and has lots of friends. She wants to be
a
Slytherin because
Slytherin
the fraternity and the, "Ooh, I'm
reputation.
so edgy," and the Reputation era, and I'm a snake, right? She's she's a Ravenclaw.
Yeah,
She's a
straight up.
cringy Ravenclaw. She's,
I agree with
people
you.
yeah,
Folklore and Evermore, straight up Ravenclaw.
creative,
You could almost
original.
smell the weed coming off of the albums. Like, she is
Yeah.
a Ravenclaw, 100%, and Midnights with her incense and all that crap,
Mhm.
Ravenclaw. Ravenclaw cringe for sure, but
Yeah,
good
she's
for
she's
her.
the heavy, heavy creative, like mind
Yes, super
definitely
creative.
leans into that. And she is creative at her own expense. She cannot choose a correct single to lead off her album to save her life in a lot of circumstances.
No, and I think too,
So
hearing her in the Long Pond sessions or whatever, she is intellectual, but she's intellectual about emotional topics.
yeah.
And so she was talking about like that song, This Is Me Trying, and she's like,
Hmm.
"I just thought about addiction and how people are," and, like, you can see how much thought goes into everything. So,
Yeah.
I do think she's a wing Slytherin, like you said, she has a lot of Slytherin traits, she's
Yeah.
extremely calculated,
Very ambitious.
extremely, but she is a Ravenclaw, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, it's because what comes at the end of the day? Does her ambition trump her creativity, or does her
No.
creativity trump her ambition? Creativity wins
Yeah.
every single time. It's why you get crappy lead singles off of the Lover album, Me and You Need to Calm Down. Whereas everybody and their mother knows if she knew what she was doing with a business minded sense, she would have led with Cruel Summer.
Yes. It's why she puts a shot at her feet in Lavender Haze
That's an
right
entire
at the
other scream that
beginning.
we're gonna do.
Yeah, we do have a Taylor conspiracy stream in the works for sure,
And
but
why her feet are in everything.
anyway,
Shots,
we
close-ups.
see you, Joe, which we'll move on to Joe. So what is her boyfriend?
Joe is a Slytherin who pretends he's not a Slytherin, and he lets Taylor think that she's a strong, independent woman, but really he's controlling her and
Yes,
wants
and
pictures of her feet.
I think that he I absolutely agree with everything. I think that he was drawn to her because she was so famous and had so
Mhm.
much power, and it's all about the proximity to power, and
Yeah,
he's like, "Me," and he just kinda
yeah,
swooped in there, but he made her think that she wanted him. And
yeah,
he's very I think he really loves her, I do, but I think that he is very controlling over her, and I don't even think
yeah,
she realizes it.
yeah.
She
He's
literally
probably
had
because
to
he
say, "Not
go ahead.
because he owns me,
Yeah.
because she is owned by him."
Yeah. Well, I bet he never actually explicitly tells her what to do. He's not like, "Taylor, do this." He's like, "Yeah, I mean, this could be a good, yeah, have you thought about it this way?" And then because she's so into him, she's like, "Yeah, that sounds like a good idea." So he probably, like, manipulates her without her knowing. And to be fair, like, um, there are some benefits to that and some not so good benefits to that.
Right. I
Yeah.
agree. It's interesting. So, yeah,
Yeah.
she's also, like, in love with Slytherins. I mean, a lot of the guys she's dated are Slytherins, like Jake Gyllenhaal. I mean, she's
Mhm.
super into Slytherin-y type of people because I think she's drawn to the power herself. I think it makes her feel safe. She's
Yeah.
extremely feminine, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
But, yeah, who's next?
Selena Gomez.
So, I have no idea, I will
Me
say,
either.
but she does
I
make me cringe.
Yeah. She's 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 creative, but she's not that creative. She's not like Taylor
Yeah,
Swift creative. She's also not, like, brave and going out there like a Gryffindor, but she's also not, like,
she's not a Slytherin. She's
group-minded.
probably a Hufflepuff.
I think she's just kind of a melancholy Hufflepuff.
She's kind of a messy Hufflepuff, but she's
Yeah.
always been very loyal
Mhm.
to Taylor, but she was very disloyal to some people, but I think,
I don't know
she
if it
was
was disloyal. I feel like the people calling her disloyal are the what, like, they don't see their own role in it.
okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah,
Because
I
like,
think she's a Huffle.
yeah.
She's very close to Taylor, they're very close. I've
Mhm.
never heard her counsel anyone either.
Yeah.
Taylor goes after people all the time, but that's her Slytherin side probably, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, Ravenclaws go after people
yeah,
sometimes.
that's true,
It
they
just
do.
depends, like,
It's
what's
a
going on.
Ravenclaw thing, actually, never
Yeah,
mind. Slytherins don't really do that often.
yeah. If you're
Yeah.
about, so who do you think that she was disloyal to?
Jennifer Aniston, because she slept with her I don't know if it was her ex or whatever, but
Wait, you're saying Selena Gomez slept with Justin Theroux?
I think so, mhm. It was a
I
huge
never
drama.
heard that.
Mhm. And the thing is she's an alcoholic, like, Selena's a massive alkie,
Mhm.
and I think she probably did it because she was drunk, but she was, like, really close to Jennifer Aniston, but, I mean,
Really?
like you said, there can be unevolved Hufflepuffs too, you know?
Yeah, I never heard that. I didn't even know that they were all connected. That's so weird. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not surprised she's an alcoholic. I know that the person who gave her kidney, I had heard that they're not really friends anymore because the girl, like, gave her a kidney and Selena Gomez was drinking, and she's like, "You know, I gave you that organ. Why are you messing it
Right.
up?"
Yeah,
Especially
she's
since, like, Selena Gomez had recently like, she had, like a really high percentage of never having her lupus come back after that organ transplant, but one of the things that can make it come back is alcohol, you know, and then she had a lupus flare up. I mean, I'm not saying she did it to herself or anything, I don't wanna
right.
we're this is all speculation, clearly, but there's a reason why some people she didn't mention her organ donor in her, like, latest documentary, and that was pretty crappy, but I do think it's because you said she's unevolved, but she can't fit into any of the houses. She has to be Hufflepuff.
Yeah.
She's miscellaneous.
Yeah, I think that she is an unevolved Hufflepuff. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's 'cause
Yeah.
we don't see very many examples of that. Yeah, it's like the Badger, just look at how she advertised cosmetics
Mhm.
company, yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Um, and then Demi Lovato.
Yes, Shannon, she did. Anyway what did you say? What was the next one? I'm sorry.
Demi Lovato.
Ooh, Demi Lovato is really cringe. Ooh,
She's a Gryffindor.
she's got the cringe factor, but you're right because she is so
She's
fast to go
a
after
Leo
anybody.
who literally has a lion tattooed on her hand. But also she's, because here's the thing,
Snoop.
Selena Gomez is a Leo, but you can definitely tell
No, well,
she's
Selena's
differently
actually
aesthetic.
she's a Cancer, but she's so incredibly
No,
cussed, like,
she's a Leo. She's a Leo. She's
no, she's
confirmed
a
she's confirmed herself a Leo.
oh, interesting. So
Yeah.
she must have been born later than people thought.
Mhm.
Oh, wow, because she was
Yeah.
within a couple hours of being one.
Yeah.
Interesting. She's
Well,
super
like
Cancerian as a Leo then. But,
well, I think she probably
um,
just has different aspects. She probably has, like she seems like she probably has Scorpio in her chart somewhere.
yeah, well, when it comes to, Demi is so she is a Gryffindor because she's
Mhm.
super SJW. Oh my gosh,
Mhm.
like, it's off the charts, but
Mhm.
she is also loud.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're right. The internet's now saying she's a Cancer, but I swore she said she was a Leo.
She's super cussed. She has a lot of Leo in her,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Okay, well, I could definitely see her as being a Cancer, but anyways, she has an Aries moon, interesting.
That's weird.
Leo rising. Okay, well,
Yeah.
she's Leo rising regardless.
She has Leo traits. She has a lot of Leo in her. But yeah,
De
she was born like a week before me, by the way.
yeah.
Weird.
Demi Lovato yeah, good night, Shannon. Demi Lovato is loud. Demi Lovato, um, I just remember so many interviews with her back when she was releasing her album. She was like, "This is the album I'm finally gonna get a Grammy." She would, like, literally say that kind of stuff in interviews. It's so
Yeah,
cringe
she's got
because she
all the
wanted the
cringe.
glory and the recognition and the praise and the reputation.
Yes. And the SJW.
Yeah, and it's very SJW, very me. She's a Gryffindor, and I'm a
Yeah,
Gryffindor. I can say these things, but here's the thing is I'm not a toxic Gryffindor. I'm, like, a
that's
very highly
true.
evolved Gryffindor, in my personal opinion. But a lot of people who we're talking about, they're not evil. Um,
They're not involved, yeah.
yeah, um, next one I have is Katy Perry.
She's a tough one. I think she's a bit of a hot stall. I think she's definitely between oh god, no, she has some Ravenclaw traits for sure.
She does, but I just don't see her as I mean, she's creative, but she's not, like,
Mhm.
for the pursuit of creativity.
If I had to peg her, I honestly would say she's probably a Slytherin,
Yeah,
probably.
I think so too. I don't think she's a bad Slytherin, though.
No, but she like, the way that it was very hard for her to, like, vote for that other mayor
Mhm.
because she had to
Yeah.
leave her leftist thing or like, the left,
Yeah.
but she's never been woke. She's not a woke person.
Yeah.
She's
She said
always
some
been
woke things, but it was more like she's just kind of like I feel like it's because she really believes it, not because she's, like, performing, you
I think
know?
it's also because she wants to push it. So, like,
Mhm.
when the BLM thing was happening, she posted Black Lives Matter, and she was encouraging people to go do it, but she's not doing it. And that's the
Yeah.
difference. It's like
Mhm.
she voted for all the policies, but she left and moved to Tennessee. Like, she's not
Yeah.
woke. And I think it's because she's definitely a performative SJW.
Mhm.
She is lefty, but there's a lot of Slytherins that are lefty, but there are no Slytherins that are truly SJW. It doesn't
Yeah.
exist. It
Exactly.
but she's also very corporate, she's kept very quiet and silent
Mhm.
about some of the abuses she's likely gone through, and there have been times where she's disloyal, and it's
Mhm.
really hurt her, like, when she, like, was disloyal to her dad, or, she disagreed with her dad on religion, for example. It was very
Yeah.
difficult for her.
Well,
So I think she's
she
a
even
Slytherin.
said during the Trump era that she took a lot of heat for saying, "No, I'm not gonna stop talking to my parents because they voted for Trump. That's
Mhm.
ridiculous to my parents."
It's fraternity.
She's
Mhm.
like, she hated Trump too, but she was like, "But they're my family, and that's more
Or she
important." And
said she hated Trump. I don't know
yeah.
if she hated him, but she's performative,
Yeah.
it's tough to tell. She's very, very self-preservation. She's
Mhm.
super Scorpio, by the way. She has, like, triple
Yes,
Scorpio.
very Scorpio.
Yeah,
Um,
so
I I do agree she has Hufflepuff traits, Celtic, but she's, that loyalty is fraternity.
yeah.
It's not loyal to an individual. It's loyal to my in-group, and her
Yes.
in-groups are family. She's family oriented.
Yes, and she also did care about the gay issue when it wasn't
Mhm.
popular, which is
Yes,
interesting.
I kissed a
Mhm.
girl prior way years prior to the Marriage Equality
And
Act.
even with
Yeah.
when she had the thing of, that song Firework, there was, like, a gay
Mhm.
kiss in it, and that was
Yeah.
controversial. That was, like,
Mhm.
2011. Like,
Yeah.
she definitely helped push ahead
Mhm.
those things, and so she cared about that issue, and she wants society to be more accepting. She wanted more of, like,
Yeah.
the good traits of lefty
Mhm.
rather than the bad, but I think at
Yeah.
this point, she had to leave. But whenever she has to leave something, you can tell she's a Scorpio. I mean, well, she's a Scorpio, but you can also tell
Mhm.
she's a Slytherin because it really hurts her to leave.
Yeah.
She doesn't make a huge statement about it.
Mhm. And people might say, "Oh, because of that, she's a Gryffindor." And I'm like, "That those are Gryffindor traits," but it's like you said, it's she's the self-preservation is very
Very
high.
strong.
Yeah.
It's a huge factor.
Mhm.
It's interesting.
The last one I have is Lady Gaga, and then that's the last one I have on the list.
Lady Gaga, I think, is pretty obvious. I think she's
Not a Hufflepuff.
no,
She
no.
definitely wants glory, but she's creative like a Ravenclaw. I don't see her as being a Slytherin.
No, I think she's a Ravenclaw because the
Yeah.
creativity aspect is so strong, and
Mhm.
she pushed ahead society in certain ways, but from an intellectual
Yeah.
perspective. She definitely has Slytherin traits because she's done some shady things behind
Mhm.
the scenes, but again, Ravenclaws are about themselves,
Yeah.
and they will do shady things to further their own career or their own ideas, and
Yeah.
that's what she did. It's not about she's extremely individualistic. She's not about fraternity. She's about her, which is interesting. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Snake performative vibes from Lady Gaga. Well, I mean, like, she is performative, but she's very much like because her whole identity is a performance, that's
yeah,
just who she is. She doesn't go by her real name. She goes by her
yeah,
stage name of Lady Gaga, but she's talked about this too, where she gets to know people. She's like, guys, that's just who I am in public. That's not who I am
yeah,
as a person, and that's fine. You're allowed
yeah.
to have your public persona and your private persona.
When she's extremely intelligent, she was picked up by a government agency along with Andrew Yang and what's that? The guy with Facebook, I forgot his name.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Mark Zuckerberg, they all went to this weird government program camp because they had such high IQs and the government used them to push agendas. I know it's
What?
crazy, but yeah, look it up. It's real. So
Well, they got what, tech, artistry, who was the third? Andrew Yang, politics?
mhm,
Whoa. I don't
and
know, that's
culture,
weird. I've
Miss
never heard of
Gaga.
that.
Yeah, so yeah, it's
Oh,
true,
she's
and
incredibly intelligent. You can tell
mhm,
Lady Gaga's
very
intelligent. Like,
high
I don't agree with
IQ.
her opinions. I think sometimes
Right.
she can be a little dumb, in that regard, but people can be dumb in some aspects. She's like
Yeah.
but the way she plays piano, the way
Mhm.
she can write music, like, she's seems like she's very intelligent. But yeah, anyways, that's the whole list that we got,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
I hope you guys really enjoyed hearing about the Hogwarts houses and,
Yes.
my expert knowledge of having read
There
the
was
Harry
one
Potter
more
series 10
person.
times.
There was one more
Oh,
person I
who was
wanted to
it?
ask you.
Yes, tell me.
What do you think Mikey is?
Mikey Harlow. Okay. So comes off as loud and performative like a Gryffindor, not a Ravenclaw at all, not hardworking at all like a Hufflepuff. The options are between Slytherin and Gryffindor.
Gryffindor.
He's definitely extremely loyal to Carrie Smith.
Yeah. Oh,
But
why?
he's a hat stall between the two because he's definitely loud and obnoxious like a Gryffindor.
I do think so, but I think oh, you know what though?
He like
He was
spied
def
on Carlin for Carrie Smith. Like he pretended to be
no.
Carlin's friend.
He also very much the thing is though is that he does cancel people, but he could be an unevolved Slytherin. He's
I
not the
think he's
most
unevolved in every
calculating.
way. Well, he is calculated because he literally spied on Carlin for months
That's
on the behalf of
true.
Carrie Smith. It's just that he
You
can't
know
pull it
what?
off for the long term.
I just figured it out.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but he is a Slytherin, and you know
And
why? I just thought of it.
what?
It's because he was pissed at Carlin for using his name and creating this feud with Tim. And a Gryffindor would have loved it because it would have
Yeah.
brought them more fame and clout, but he was horrified by it,
Yeah.
which is very different. No.
You know what's funny about that was that I was the when Carlin was complaining about Tim Pool, I literally subtweeted her at that time, or like I messaged or said something to her. I can't remember what it was, but I was the person to put that idea in her head. Like I was the one who said if Tim Pool really cared about blah blah blah, he would have Mikey Carlo on his show, and then she ran with it. So it was me.
Me too.
I caused that. It was my fault. I take it
Yeah, I
personally.
definitely have a lot of hate towards a lot of people in my own house, but I think that's okay.
Yeah.
I
I
think
hate God, I hate most Gryffindors,
yeah,
and
I
I am
think a lot
one.
of people hate their own too, so, yeah. I have to call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
I think that the way he goes so hard for Carrie,
Yeah.
only a Slytherin
Yeah.
could do it, and if he was Hufflepuff, he would just be more pleasant. He'd be so pleasant.
Yeah.
He's so unpleasant, and he clearly doesn't care about being liked.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Mhm. Gotta say
Yeah.
it. Thank you
Okay,
for that.
well, no problem, no problem. I'm glad we got through the whole list, and I had a really fun time. I
Yeah, it
think
was
our
fun.
the beginning of our stream was chaotic, but I loved it. And yeah, so I want to plug my channel one more time, Lisa King. I'm going to put it in the description box one more time, or whatever call it, the chat. Please subscribe to me if you so
Yes.
wish.
And
I
we will
do, yeah.
eventually, in 10,000,000 years, we will be doing these earlier, promise.
Yes, yes, definitely. And also, secret project.
Secret
Alex and
project
I
coming.
Alex and I have a secret project coming. We'll tell you more about it some other time. We've hinted at it many, many times. But
Yes.
anyways, you guys have you give us an outro, Alex. You do it.
Oh gosh. Well, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, night,
Mhm,
whatever. I hope you enjoyed the
mhm.
replay. And yeah, you'll be seeing us again soon. We have more planned. So we will be back. And thank you so much for
Goodbye.
coming, Lisa. Love it.
Thank you,
Um,
Alex. Thank you for letting me hijack your stream.
of course. I
Yeah.
will see y'all later. Have a good
Okay.
night, day, whatever.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.